Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I don't know why it is that I was caught slightly off guard by this yesterday, but America enjoying that excellent team exposed, not just booing Taylor Swift, but taking what marks for excellence in America's most popular sport, enjoying seeing it lose. I'm not processing what the last 3 years has done for us. In terms of football analysis, this one's easy. We can spend all the time you guys want on the pop culture of the game because the analysis of the game is this simple. When the difference between one team's offensive line and one team's defensive line is that, and one team's defensive line and offensive line is that, and one team has both of the superior units, and it's that overt to the eye where you're like, oh my God, they're just better at all that up front. Throughout the history of football, Pop Warner, high school, college, and pros, that team is undefeated. Has never lost a game. When you hold the Chiefs to 23 yards in the first half and you score 24 points on them, that's not the Chiefs you remember. That's the Chiefs that figured out a way to win, and you cannot overcome, not with Spags, not with Andy Reid, not with Patrick Mahomes, those differences up front where they're giant differences, and you're watching and you're like, oh my God, they can't get near Hurts, and they're getting Mahomes every time, sacking him more without even bothering to blitz. It looked just like the Tampa Bay thing all over again, but in that game, Kansas City's offensive line was hurt. In this one, it just got ravaged.
I mean, we covered this 2 weeks ago, Dan. It's Nick Wright's fault.
Yeah.
The Chiefs fans got really loud and really annoying, and there's nothing that people who are fans of teams that don't make the Super Bowl like more than to root against the fans that are very happy, and that was Chiefs fans for the last couple of years.
Just wish, I mean, we're speaking about it like it was obvious. I would have sounded so smart had I known that before the game. I didn't know that the difference between along the trenches was what it turned out to be, and I don't think anyone did. And in fact, several people on ESPN were caught within a 24-hour span switching their picks, including Dominique. Like, this was a hard game to predict. It was inside 1.5 points.
I do feel like the pregame analysis was like pretty spot on, though. It was like the Eagles probably should win this game, but Patrick Mahomes has like the magic hand sometimes, and so you can't pick against Patrick Mahomes. But he had one of the worst games I think he's ever had, and like to some extent, I think that's what happens when a game spirals out of control that quickly. Like, you can't run the ball a lot when you're already down 17 points early. So it was not a great game for the type of offense that they wanted to play. But yeah, the Eagles just like they dominate, they mash them.
The thing that I found interesting, because the coverage before the game was pretty much telling you Philadelphia's defense is exceptional, unlike any that Kansas City had seen so far in the playoffs. And we knew that Jalen Hurts is maybe Philadelphia's 7th best offensive player at what he does because they've got so many good players. But what we didn't know is that when you match them up, it would look physically like that up front. Like, you could be watching the Philadelphia defense all season. You could know that Cooper DeJean is one of the best cornerbacks in the game and was all season. And, I mean, that's the biggest white cornerback moment, pick six, in the history of the sport.
Name another.
Well, I imagine there might be some in
What's
the
second?
60s, the 70s. I imagine in the 50s there's something. But
There was a seahorn.
no, but that seahorn got scorched in the Super Bowl. That seahorn might as well have been playing that entire game with a comb, a brush in his hair.
Wasn't there a Lynch?
That's
John Lynch?
Yes, there was a John Lynch.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you. That was
Like,
an
I mean, it took way too long for you to
Appreciate you.
answer that.
well, because you don't
Safeties.
understand why.
We're
You don't
going
understand
corners.
why. Wasn't there a Lynch? You don't know why it is. John Lynch was a safety. He was not.
I think Dexter Jackson had a bigger game that time.
The number of things that happened in that game, I'm not going to act like I'm unsurprised because, the Chiefs were favored by a point. And so the money was on the idea of, we kind of know that Philadelphia is better, but we're scared of Mahomes, which is how we've been doing it for about 3 years. And all season long in all of those one-score games, Mahomes was doing it. And then when he plays the Bills that don't have this defense, I mean, pressure with 4 wrecks everything. There isn't a quarterback who has played. There ain't one. I mean, maybe Lamar because he can move away from it, maybe. But if I get pressure with 4 all game, I'm going to beat all quarterbacks for the rest of time. Tom Brady among them. That's how his undefeated season ended up ending, just because the Giants could get pressure with 4. The best team Tom Brady's ever had. If you want to tell me something in the sport that you could give me after quarterback as a thing, I'd want pressure with 4.
It's a numbers game. It tilts some math in your favor. You all of a sudden get to take what was believed to be a mediocre at best wide receiver core for Kansas City, and you get to just stack more really good pass defenders as the numbers and advanced metrics bear out all season long. I just didn't think that defensive line could go an entire Super Bowl without blitzing and just cave that entire pocket in, because you mentioned Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes is pretty mobile. And every time he was trying to use his mobility to escape, there wasn't an outlet. They just collapsed the entire pocket around him.
Well, you say he's pretty mobile, and he is. You're right. He actually did some things in that game that were reminiscent of in Tampa when he's doing loop-de-loops because he's just got to run away from everybody.
Elusive.
He is elusive, but he's slower than he's been. You could see the rust falling off him if you've been watching that offense for the last 5 years. Like, you see the differences. You see their overt differences where they've got to beat you 15 plays at a time. They're very rarely going to go down the field the way they did for their first touchdown. But what you saw in that game that is unusual, because the reason I say Lamar Jackson is because he's the best athlete in the sport. Patrick Mahomes is among them, but those 4 defensive linemen were him athletically. Like, he wasn't going to be getting away from them in a way. Like, these weren't fat guys chasing him. Like, these were not. This wasn't just pressure up the middle. Sweat keeps coming over around the ends, and they've got no answer for his wingspan.
No, Sweat should have been MVP. And I say that as someone that was really impressed with what Jalen Hurts did. Sweat was just a demigod last night.
Billy, what did you talk about on God Bless Football? Did you analyze football, or did you do the pop culture stuff? Because the pop culture stuff, the top of the list is Kendrick Lamar, right? It's the top of the list of pop culture things that people were grabbing off of the Super Bowl to talk about.
If you think that I spent an hour breaking down Kendrick Lamar, you will be disappointed in God Bless Football this week, I will say.
What did you?
We talked some football, Dan. We talked some pigskin. We did some commercials. We did some stuff. We played a game of more or less Mike Lee. So, things that we do.
Okay, do you not want to bring attention to God Bless Football
No, I
today
do.
and promote it correctly?
No, it's not that I don't want to bring attention to it. I have to walk a tightrope here so that I don't recycle, the things that I did, so I don't want to do. But if you want, we could play a game of more or less Mike Lee real quickly, a little preview.
No, that's
and
okay.
No, because this is a good one. You're going to like
okay.
this. You're going to like this. This is how more or less Mike Lee works. I give you a situation, and it's more Mike Lee or it's less Mike Lee. So this was a scenario, and we can discuss because you guys will have different opinions on this, and you might have a different answer. Which is more Mike Lee? That Drew Barrymore has been on an MSC cruise, or that Eugene Levy has ever eaten Little Caesars?
I like this game.
I gotta go with the cruise.
Because the cruise, I saw the cruise commercial and I said, I am never going to step on a cruise ship, and Drew Barrymore is just going to be hanging out at this cruise ship. Like, it's very unlikely that this situation happens. It's called more or less Mike Lee because we have someone on the show that's name is Mikey. Dan. So the other one, though, was immediately followed up back-to-back commercials with Eugene Levy telling us about Little Caesars. And Eugene Levy never in his life has been to a Little Caesars, and I am willing to die on that. I'm willing to go down with that ship because I don't think that he even, when approached, knew what Little Caesars was. And I'm basing that, yes, sure, on his character in the public and the way that he behaves, but I've been watching his show on Apple Plus, Apple whatever it's called, and he's there and he's, on vacation and he's in all these opulent hotels and he's visiting all these destinations, and you can tell that his life is not one that involves Little Caesars, and there's nothing wrong with hot and ready pizza. There's nothing wrong with Little Caesars. There's nothing wrong with those giant heating microwaves that you have to go in and you have to put in codes and then a little door opens and you get out your Little Caesars. Nothing wrong with any of that. I just don't think that this is something that Eugene Levy has ever done in his life.
You've made that clear. The poppers looked delicious.
Well, I would be willing to bet he has had
On set.
a bite of a Little Caesars pizza, but he's definitely never had a crazy puff, right? Like, that's where I'm like, I really doubt that he would have had one of those. And also, his eyebrows aren't going to fly off when he eats one if he does.
Yeah, that's less likely. There's plenty of Little Caesars in Canada, where he's from, around Hamilton. This guy was a struggling comedian up and coming in Canada. I imagine there were a lot of pizza nights.
I got to tell you that I think Billy is coming in aggressive today. Super Bowl week is a lot, okay? So when he says out loud on a national and international forum that he's willing to die because he removed the hill and just made it, he's willing to die.
Yeah, took it too far.
Yeah, over guessing whether or not Eugene Levy has eaten a Little Caesar, ever eaten at Little Caesars. You're saying that this is blanketly something that he's just taking money to do. There were flying mustaches in one commercial. There were flying eyebrows in his commercial. There was a commercial for Jesus, and both Snoop and Tom Brady were in a commercial for hate.
Well, while the biggest diss track of all time is being played during halftime.
So was Kendrick wearing the is this... It's the details on this I need you guys to help me with.
I've checked the internet. It's pronounced Levy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Did anyone catch Kendrick walking up onto the stage right before they went to break to toss it to the commercial? I mean, to the halftime show, you see him behind Jimmy Johnson on their set, just casually walking up the stairs.
Well,
there's no way they wanted that revealed.
You also mentioned Jesus, and
He gets us.
I love that he gets us, but he also doesn't get the meaning of that song. The same way that conservatives don't get Born in the USA.
Was that a Marilyn Manson song? Like there was
It's famously Depeche Mode. I mean, he covered
Born in the
Personal
USA?
Jesus. No, Personal Jesus.
Oh.
The ad for Jesus is paid for by whom? Because Jesus isn't putting that out. And I didn't see a church attached to it.
I'm sure it's whatever lobbying group has been behind most of the Supreme Court cases.
There was some .com at the end of it.
Bad way.
Okay, well, let's talk.
He's with us.com or
Immaculate
something.
Foundation.
So let's talk
He gets us as well.
a minute about what it is that this whole thing was, because the NFL does big so very well, so gluttonous, so grotesque. That Brad Pitt commercial before the game, so overdone, so overwritten.
And you got to be careful there. The reason why it was overdone, because I also felt that a little bit. I'm like, this is a little over the top. And I also realized what New Orleans has gone through.
Yes, of course. The coverage, and the quad coverage did a very good job of all of that. But when Michael Strahan is coming out onto Bourbon Street and saying, this is the time that we come together, it's what we do. We do around the Super Bowl, but football taking and waving that flag proudly around itself, while taking end racism out of the end zone and trying to navigate today's stuff while being the corporate entity that normalizes the idea that corporations do have to back down to the present president of the United States.
Do you think that's what was at play, or they didn't want people making the observation that you have end racism in the end zone while the Seminole War chant is going on?
The things that they do to package on Fox television are very smartly done. They used a ton of Tom Brady. Tom Brady was earning his $375 million yesterday, coming out and doing skits and T-shirts where my wife's looking at him and she's like, why does he look like a nerd?
Well, he didn't know how to tuck that shirt in. He kind of went in between. It was
Tom
a
Brady,
lovely performance by Lady Gaga.
Tom Brady was not terrible yesterday. Although
What?
I agree. That's That's the take.
No.
He was fine.
No.
Guys, he was cut off mid-sentence, headed into a commercial break.
Guys,
Besides that,
I actually saw the value in Tom Brady having some of those restrictions lifted and being able to talk to coaches beforehand. I thought he brought some insight there. And I'm happy that a producer finally pulled him aside. It's like, hey, you've won 7 of these. You've literally seen every situation. Let's have a little brief story every 15 seconds or so whenever there's a situation that you encountered when you played in one of these.
it was a bar in the second quarter where he's just like, I've been down more than this. When they were down 17-0.
Fox debuted a new scorebug to distract people from Tom Brady.
I'm with Billy. At one point, they were like, Tom, what do they need to do here? And he's like, well, the Chiefs, they need to get a stop. And I'm like,
Well, they did.
wow, that's...
It was a good point.
No, but they didn't. And then the Eagles scored again, and then it was over.
Okay, look,
$400 million for that, Chris.
Forgive me.
Your expectations are all just too low. So you're like, oh, that was better than I expected.
It was better. I thought it was one of his better ones.
It obviously was, but I am grading on a curve. She's also correct that it wasn't a good broadcast for a good broadcaster.
There was only like 1 or 2 mistakes.
No. When you're trying to say that Mahomes is superhuman and you keep calling him unhuman, like, no, that's not. He was not good. He was good for Tom Brady, which is bad.
A little insight, little cute line about Saquon bobbling the ball. I didn't mind my running backs doing that.
But you're right that someone got into his ear and said, tell the stories, because when you're listening to Tom Brady say what it feels like to lose one of those games and that he cannot speak afterward because he's so shell-shocked after they lose to the Giants because the Giants had the pass rush that Philadelphia had. Those insights were useful during the game.
Greatest quarterback of all time telling you that he slept like a baby the first Super Bowl that he played in, napped and everything. And then by the last one, he was nervous, couldn't get any sleep
He
before.
could tell you that in a podcast while someone else tells me what's going on in the game.
I guess I've always seen more of the novelty and more of the value in simply the greatest of all time to ever do it. I've never had access to the greatest of all time during a game broadcast, during the biggest games of all time. I've never had access to their thoughts like that. So the novelty, I do wish he were a little bit more charismatic. I do wish he was a little bit more brief.
That's it, though. Like early in the game when it wasn't quite a blowout yet, just vibeless. It was just a vibeless open to the Super Bowl, and I felt very melancholy and malaised.
Anyone find it weird when the referee started the coin toss with, "Hi, I'm Ron Torbert"? I was just like, why do they always announce their names?
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Did you find it weird when the referee said, "Hi, I'm Ron Tolbert"?
Just get to the coin toss. Like, we're good. This is not about you, Ron.
I'm your host for the evening.
Hello, I'm Ron Torbert. I was like, wow, this is...
He might as well just announce his address because you know he's going to get doxxed right after that OPI to open the game. I was like, oh, God, here we go again.
What would they do if old Ron would have then told us, like, the law firm he works for right after? Like, I'm Ron Torbert of, Torbert, Ister, and Green.
You don't think they would have done the same thing they did to the person who was arrested or detained for holding up Palestine? And, because it's in the middle of the game, you do something?
I don't think it would have been the same. No.
You don't think so?
No,
I think you guys underestimate what it is that football will do to protect the sanctity of its sidelines.
I mean, in this case, they just sent an old white woman to chase after somebody until he got off the stage and then was promptly tackled. Well, not even promptly. Didn't catch any of that. Shout out to the directors for cutting.
They do that so well, honestly. Like, I don't think we fathom how odd it is to have something that giant go out without many hiccups, except we weren't supposed to see Jimmy Johnson with Kendrick Lamar and Tom Brady still talking as they go to break. Like the perfection of these things on the details are truly staggering to imagine just the size and scope of what the NFL does best, which is what they do best is giant, is gluttonous. And in that respect, I suppose they can wave the flag on behalf of being representative of a greedy, gluttonous America that spends its Sunday, gorging itself in an American holiday that everyone's a little hungover on today. I can't imagine how bad that flight that Stugotz is on, the red eye, how bad that smells.
I mean, it's from Chicago. It's from
Still,
a totally different
but
city.
it's Super Bowl Monday.
It's still Super Bowl Monday.
You know
Tony,
how much jardinera they eat in Chicago on Super Bowl Sunday, Billy?
how are you doing this, Billy, where you think the plane's out of Chicago somehow?
Malort farts. Have you ever had you ever have a Malort fart?
What the hell was Harry Connick Jr. doing at the opening ceremony?
He's famously
New
from the area.
Orleans.
That's all it takes to be the like walking in the Super Bowl to us.
What?
I'm from New Orleans.
Yeah. Are you not familiar with how this goes? Let there be a Super Bowl in Miami and guess who they try
I
out.
guarantee you, Harry Connick Jr. was like, "I'd like to go to this Super Bowl," and they were like, "You know what? You're from New Orleans. Oh, you can lead it. You can be the opening." It's ridiculous. When's the last time he did anything?
He's a legend.
That's
a
how
legend.
Yes.
A legend.
Yeah, Harry Connick Jr. is, especially to the area.
I kind of. I had a conversation with an Uber driver about Harry Connick Jr. because we were hearing how he was like at the Kelsey party and all this stuff. The Uber driver was like, his dad was famously a DA here for 20 years. I'm like, I didn't know that. Why would I know that? I was like, was he any good? I'm like, yeah, he was a good DA, which I don't know who keeps like rankings of their local DAs.
He's got a controversy tab on his Wikipedia page. Harry Connick Sr.
All right, well, let's, okay.
Prosecutorial misconducts and innocence on death row is a subheader.
Oh, so he was not a good DA. I'm glad we're here. The day after the Super Bowl to talk about Harry Connick Sr. and his record as a DA.
If they put him in some part of the broadcast or show him he's from New Orleans, like, of course. But it's just like he was the first voice we heard. It was like, welcome to the Super Bowl. And then they pan down. And I'm just like, what?
I'm with Chris in that, like, I feel like if you were to have a quiz and you were like, is this a Harry Connick Jr. movie? Or is it not? Or is this a Harry Connick Jr. song? Or is it not? I don't think people would do very well on that quiz. I don't think that people would get like passing. Okay. I think C+ is the best anyone in this room could do in terms of what has Harry Connick Jr. done besides be Harry Connick Jr.
So please
Practical magic.
Help me if you would at Le Batard Show. Put it on the poll. Juju, is Harry Connick Jr. Indeed a legend?
And have you ever had a Malort fart?
No, that's not what I would have. I would have said that if that's what I wanted on the poll. You don't get to just come in here and put that on the poll. I am confused though why it is that Billy thinks that a plane coming out of Chicago after the Super Bowl is going to smell any better than a plane coming out of any other city.
New Orleans. I mean, it's people are a plane out of Philadelphia today would be disaster.
Okay, so let's think about this for a second. So which do you imagine to be the foulest smelling plane today? The red eye out of blank.
Well, it has to be where the Super Bowl was.
And which area famously has Malort?
You say this, Chris, but I'm not sure that the being at the Super Bowl is more debaucherous than being in your home, eating everything you're eating in your home on a Sunday.
I had half of one of those Carvel football cakes.
Super Bowl Sunday has become Thanksgiving, has it not? In terms of what it is that you do to your body with the eating, like it's become a second Thanksgiving, has it not? Like in terms of how people, Stugotz has been arguing for years that this day should be off, that they should have Super Bowl Saturday so that everybody can recover on Sunday from the foul things they did, mourning the end of the football season, celebrating and mourning. That's what the Super Bowls, by the way, used to be like before all the games were close in football. Like it used all the time. For many, many years, we complained about how shitty the Super Bowl was. And no one seems to even remember that because all of a sudden all the games in football are close. So yesterday's happened and you're like, oh, this isn't as fun at halftime.
It's the biggest ass kicking since when? I know Bucs Chiefs was a bit of an ass kicking.
Since that same Eagles defense played against TCU in the national championship game 3 years ago.
Yeah, I guess Seahawks Broncos was also like a bit of an ass kicking. But that was, I just kept hopping on Eagles Live. It was obvious from the jump.
All right, a quick quiz here. I have 4 names of albums, and you tell me which one of these was a Harry Connick Jr. album.
He's a singer?
Yeah, was it Off the Deep End, Even Worse, Mandatory Fun, or Bad Hair Day?
Bad Hair Day?
Wrong. Those were all Weird Al Yankovic albums.
So it wasn't just Harry Connick Jr. No, he wasn't the first voice that we heard. That was like 3 hours into their broadcast.
It was the opening number of
Master P was also out there. There was which marching band was out there? Was it Southern?
Right.
It was a tie-in to all the local music.
I'm glad you mentioned Master P because he was just shown. There's Master P walking in.
He said,
Harry Connick Jr. was like leading, like it was just
what he was leading, all right, just to be clear, this started at about 6 p.m. and the game is at 6:30.
Master P wants to hop up on there and tickle some ivories. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. Also, 36 men convicted in Orleans Parish during Connick's 30-year tenure as DA have made allegations of prosecutorial misconduct, and 19 have had their sentences overturned or reduced as a result.
This is how we ruin everything.
This is a bad track record.
Digging into the past of Harry Connick Jr.'s father. Can't we just enjoy ourselves for just a moment before we get to the bad behavior that he descends from? I want to know from the audience, because I believe New Orleans to be a great American city, and I think there are very few of them. I don't know. Would you guys say there are 5 of them?
I think there are 5 cities in America that are really good, and even more.
No, hold on a second. Great American city. Bones, the bones of the buildings have a certain history that when I tell you his father was a DA, you can imagine that time in New Orleans, because Harry Connick Jr. represents a symbol from a place. Like, this is a place that's proud to recover from things when the cemeteries are above ground there. It's a haunted, wonderful, dark, light city.
It's also very French, so I don't know. Does that make it a great American city? Because it's like aggressively French.
Yeah. How many great American cities would you guys say there are? Are there 5? Like where there? Because I'm talking about things where the architecture has a history and what it is that Harry Connick Jr. means to those people that I think you're disrespecting when you guys speak of a non-New Orleans attitude, which I understand in not knowing who Harry Connick Jr. is, but I think you're just being disrespectful of what he represents to a region.
Represents to.
I think most people don't care about Harry Connick Jr.
Of all the
What
people
are we
to take
talking
a shot at Harry Connick Jr.
No, I didn't even know about his dad. If I knew he was a nepotism baby, I would have supported him.
Well, no,
I'm just learning about his dad.
Well, he's
honestly.
not technically a nepo baby because he didn't become a DA yet.
Right.
No, but foot in the door.
Honestly, I'm not ripping that he is known for this area, but it's just like there has to be more to the qualification than you're from New Orleans.
Okay.
When the Super Bowl was here, Trick Daddy wasn't our like number 1 person out there. It was just like, Trick Daddy's here. He's from Miami. Yes. But it's like he doesn't need to be the first singer at 6:20 when I'm tuning in. My daughter's like, who is this? I'm like, it's Harry Connick Jr.
They've trotted out Gloria Stefan. Yeah. This is a time-honored tradition.
Didn't The Rock do a whole thing at the last Miami Super Bowl?
No, that was L.A.
LA.
Yeah, he needs to.
Are you sure?
Pick a
it wasn't
place.
both?
I mean, I don't know if he did it at both, but he did the one in L.A. He did among the pop culture items around the Super Bowl. Nike airs its first Super Bowl ad in 27 years. I don't know who won creatively. I have not checked the internet. The Ben Affleck commercial, Dunkin' Donuts, was that popular again this year?
You can call it the Ben Affleck commercial. That was Jeremy Strong's commercial by the end of it.
Okay, Bill Belichick was in that commercial. Was his girlfriend also in the commercial? Who was that
Yes,
next?
it was.
So.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
It was a very young brunette.
And who won yesterday? The Seal commercial was super weird. The cowboy flesh hat commercial was super weird.
There was a lot of body horror with the cowboy flesh hat and the flying eyebrows and mustaches. Yeah.
Did any of you do the Bill Murray journey excursion when he gave you his email on? None of you did it? None of you cared to do it?
I didn't even know he gave it.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Was that midway through the 3rd? When did Bill Murray give me his email?
That
That was a thing?
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah,
He gave me his email and I missed it?
No, that's someone farting on a plane from Chicago.
Yeah.
Don't look up his past either. Jeez.
He was mean to me one time when it was understandable though.
So yesterday,
What'd you do?
Well, Dan's like, there's like 17 people at this Marlins Cubs game. Bill Murray's there. We'll give somebody a prize if they get Bill Murray on the show. And someone got Bill Murray to me, and then I was vetting Bill Murray. What? And Bill Murray was very offended that I was vetting Bill Murray, and so he decided to not come on when it was 100% Bill Murray.
What do you ask?
Yeah, you thought it was like a Bill Murray mask? What happened here?
No, I was like, it didn't really sound all that much like Bill Murray. So I was just like, whoa.
It was on the
IMDb,
phone.
I'm like, what'd you just work on? He's like, I just rapped on City of Ember. Like, why are we doing this? I'm trying to watch the game.
that story's amazing, and I'd totally forgotten it. So you're saying that as a call screener, we got somebody to go up to Bill Murray at the Marlins game and call our show. Mm-hmm. And because you were the call screener, you were quizzing Bill Murray on whether he's Bill Murray when we'd interrupted Bill Murray to hand him a phone during the game?
Look, in my defense, I think I was meeting it with perhaps just a little bit more scrutiny than I should have. But, I was just making sure that this person didn't get a free $7.90 the ticket
If only
t-shirt.
you had the Chris Cody judgment, you would have just rolled the dice. Sounds like I'm good to go.
None of you did this because I found myself doing this with Bill Murray, and I thought that this was creative, what it is that they tried to do, which is send you to an email address so that it feels like you're emailing with Bill Murray, where he's including videos, and you're going on a much longer journey than the 30-second commercial. But I'm on the record as saying that all of these things, none of the products stick with me. I remember the commercials, but not the products. It's something that I've done all my life. Sometimes I'll remember a competing product because my mind doesn't it doesn't absorb whatever it is that advertising is supposed to do there the way that it reaches other people, I think, because this has never, whenever I talk to you guys about this, it doesn't happen to you. All of you guys would know that the When Harry Met Sally commercial was a mayonnaise commercial, and you'd know the mayonnaise, correct? Like you would, not everyone can do that. I'm particularly poor at it. And especially when they put the name of the company right at the end, where I don't even know what the ad is for the whole time. I'm not the only one this happens to, right? Where I'm questioning after 30 seconds, why did you advertise like that if all you're doing is telling me your product at the end? And by that point, I don't care.
I mean, Roy's very good at knowing these commercials. I don't think you're alone in that. I barely remember the commercials. I know the seal was for Mountain Dew, right?
That was wonderfully weird. Yeah. I love that everyone took that chance to just be memorable because you're weird. Make seal a seal.
I feel like that has to get pitched to him every year. Yeah. And he finally was just like, you know what? This is the year.
This is the year that he's like, I guess my career is at the point where I'm pretending to be a seal.
Every other year, it's like, no! Whoever his agent is, hey, enough with that.
It is such a good visual that every year, his marketing team, which keeps shrinking, is bringing him the ad, and he's like, fine.
Seal's agent answers the phone every year. He's like, hi, this is Seal. No, he will not be a seal.
Do you know how many Flex Seal commercials I've turned down? They wanted me to sit on a boat with a glass door that was just held together by Flex Seal, but I said no. I wrote Kiss from a Rose.
All right, I have 4 more here. Don't be stupid, polka party, running with scissors, or poodle hat.
Polka party is definitely Harry Connick Jr.
Those are all Weird Al again. Yeah.
It was a great trick, Billy. It was wonderful.
It's a
what
good
you
trick
did.
once.
Billy. It was a good trick once, but it was such a good trick, at least in part, because you needed to have the immediate response, and your glee in jumping in and correcting him was such that it made me wonder whether I want to talk about Harry Connick Jr. anymore, because I'm likely to get embarrassed somewhere here.
Oh, whoa.
Because
why?
I don't know. Because I don't know the details of why.
A girl or something? Yeah.
I don't know the details of why it is that he's a legend in New Orleans. I just know the way.
Hold on. Harry Connick Jr. is very accomplished, right? I imagine
Allegedly.
There's an awards section of his Wikipedia that feels like it would be vast, just because when I grew
Well,
up,
there's not a lawsuit section like his dad's.
there was he was a fixture at all these Grammy Awards because of the style of music, the adult contemporary stuff that he did. Like, he was just dominating certain genres of music that maybe we didn't grow up listening to, but he's certainly an icon for that region.
I know him as Will Smith's friend in Independence Day.
He knocked that out of the park.
He did. That was a good role. Nice little role.
I want to get to Tom Brady's watch in a second, because the watch, everybody really noticed that this was and you guys will have to explain this to me. If you had that money, do you think you would spend that much on a watch? Do any of you like watches that much that you would spend between $500,000 and $750,000? Luca was doing this as well, right? Luca, everybody noticed at the initial press conference, and what's happening around Luca is amazing, where death threats are going into Dallas. Anthony Davis is out, injured. He was great for the first half, and now he's injured immediately. And the Dallas franchise, speaking of Nepo babies, their owner came out for the first time and said that Luka, they don't want around the Mavs someone who doesn't try hard all the time and isn't going to be, somebody who's ready to work hard. We don't want you in the Mavs organization if you're that. And then many people have pointed out, but you're the person who took the Las Vegas Sands. You married into that family. You became the CFO of the Las Vegas Sands, and then you became the CEO, and the market cap fell $7 billion on your watch. The watch. $7 billion. And so a whole lot of people are just enraged still about the echoes of what doing that in the middle of the night felt like to the Dallas Mavericks.
So we've moved on to round ball.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
It's a really terrible Super Bowl.
I'm not gonna move on to round ball.
The
but
Tim Robinson commercials with Sam Richardson were the best ones. The Totino's pizza rolls with the little alien. Those were my favorite. You didn't see that?
Was it second half? I kind of checked out.
I don't even know. I watched it on YouTube after the game.
It sounds like you guys checked out. It sounds like you guys wandered away from the televisions, is what it sounds like to me.
I was parked in front of the TV, but this second half I was just checking my phone.
I was in a food coma by Q3. I was like, I might as well just keep eating because I don't have to stay awake.
I got to ice cream way too early in the game. I got to ice cream second quarter.
Oh
That's
my
never
God.
good. Never good.
Terrible choice.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are you doing it all wrong if the ice cream is in the second quarter?
Way too early, man.
That's aggressive.
I ate a chicken wing after ice cream.
Well, sometimes you want. Okay,
There was
I know.
a half-hour
order.
gap, but I went to ice
I
cream
know
in the
what's going
second
on.
quarter.
Yeah, I know what's going
You
on.
do, yeah, you know what's
I do.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, you want the salty, then the sweet, and then after the sweet, you want the salty again. No, I've budgeted my appetite for, look, I'm going to have the main meal, then I'm going to have the dessert, then I'm going to want a little something salty. But then I'm going to want a little something sweet again. And then to bring it all together, a little salty with the sweet. That's right, Coke Zero to wash it down.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Would you ever have a chicken wing immediately after ice cream?
Immediately is misleading.
I'm
but I'll
going to
let you
do
it.
immediately. Look, it's disgusting either way. You can put the time separation in there if you want.
I think 26 minutes
I
after.
What was the score when you ate the ice cream, and what was the score when you ate the chicken wings?
It was a blowout. That's why I was like, man, this is a bad game. I need some ice cream.
Stop trying to apply your societal rules against some munchies.
It's just look.
We will not conform.
No, you can have the.
You got to go
munchies.
outside before the halftime show. So when you come back inside from that, you're like, oh, I'm hungry again.
What you can have the.
And why are
munchies.
you going
Why are
outside?
you going outside for the halftime?
To establish the munchies.
Okay. Again, you can have the munchies, and you could still be capable of judgment. Yes, you can.
But the judgment's impaired. You understand?
Everybody at a Super Bowl party that lives this kind of life is stepping out somewhere late in that second quarter, right? Because everyone wants that little pre-halftime show.
Well, some of us go gummies.
Oh, okay. Slow burn. I like to get there.
I like to just swallow them with water and have them kind of time release.
You never know. This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Do you know how giant a sports day has to be for it to just sort of swallow, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be a Jet anymore, and Debo has asked for a trade out of San Francisco? Like the news just shrinks in the face of what this giant American celebration is that has everybody feeling a touch hungover today. It is weird, and honestly, it is where sports does a pretty good job of connecting people, even if they're divided. The idea that America still gathers around the television for a thing, and that thing meets expectations which are giant, meets giant expectations, even if the game's not any good. The game isn't exactly incidental because of the importance of crowning a champion in that particular sport. But seeing what it is that America does in terms of celebrating the punctuation on a game it associates with more than any of the others, and having in the middle of it, because they did take out of the end zone. I won't forget this part as everything changes in America over the last 4 years, and you've seen the backlash and the blacklash to everything that happened post-George Floyd, including all of these giant corporations running away, hiding, scared of the President of the United States. To see Kendrick Lamar as the halftime show when you know some of this story, right? Jay-Z feels like he was purchased during this to be the halftime entertainment. And a lot of people were critical of a lot of different things that didn't change about football when Jay-Z was put in charge of that show. And now,
I mean, wait, you're going to have to clarify the purchase thing. Like, he is a partner of the NFL.
No, I'm saying that Jay-Z got a lot of criticism for going in and doing business at that particular time, and it could look like he was being used whether he knew it or not in order to be a halftime symbol for here. We're going to give actual power to people, and over the halftime show, you will see that power displayed by Jay-Z with the artists that he chooses.
Yeah, but without Jay-Z making that deal, you wouldn't have had Kendrick yesterday. And you wouldn't have had the halftime show in LA a couple years ago. You wouldn't have had Rihanna a couple years ago.
Would we have had Maroon 5?
Probably, yeah.
We would have had Maroon 5, more than likely.
I think you're assuming that I'm entering this critically. I am not. The halftime show as a celebration becomes a success story in the middle of the commerce of it. I don't believe Kendrick is paid for that. I believe this is such a uniquely American giant thing that I believe all the artists get is a production budget. And what Kendrick Lamar did with that production budget was put together an amazing show, but also in the middle of the celebration.
Bought a lot of carpet, I can tell that.
A spectacularly black show as well. Like in the middle of the halftime celebration, where it is that the seismic moment in the middle of it is you're waiting to see whether this Grammy-winning artist who's won the rap beef for all time in making Drake the biggest loser there's ever been in a rap beef, in the middle of it, he's got Serena Williams crip walking. When Serena Williams' greatest controversy during her career was celebrating at the Tennis Country Club with that dance, her being from Compton, and all of us recognizing Serena because of the tennis skirt. You couldn't even see her face. It happened so fast. It happened so fast. To have that in the middle of the Super Bowl celebration, Billy, you assume I came here to criticize. No, that's an evolution of the halftime show that doesn't quite end racism in the end zone the way that they took it out with the stencils. But you can at least feel good about the entertainment because I think everybody was applauding everything that the artist Kendrick Lamar is, correct? Like, because he is a real artist. Like, J. Cole was wise to step away from everything that was happening there. Kendrick Lamar has been a lyricist and an artist and stands for something. Like, is not neutral, is not benign. That's a really cool halftime moment to have where it meets the expectations and is wrapped in Apple Plus, and you see this giant thing coming to life.
How much does Serena Williams hate Drake? Yeah. And like Drake, like all of this, kind of played himself with it, but like there is a cultural significance of Serena Williams, who lost a sister to a drive-by in Compton, doing the crip walk at the Super Bowl halftime show to get one over on Drake. I mean, that was
because they dated.
Yeah, and like he kind of mentioned her in a song. I don't think there was a single. It was. Correct me if I'm wrong. The entire cast of that halftime performance was African American.
Oh, I don't know, but is that right?
I believe so.
It may have been, but I
know there were a lot of people looking for a white. I mean, this one, the division when it came to this one, it was all too predictable. Went down party lines. I thought it wasn't exactly subtle. I mean, when you have an American flag that is comprised of guys who are dancing as Crips and Bloods forming together, all black individuals forming an American flag, like you're not exactly going for subtlety. Hell, Sam Jackson was Uncle Sam. And so I understand why people who aren't ideologically, politically aligned feel threatened, and that is where the problem is that this isn't overtly political. They're not making you feel less than. Their appearance is just making you feel uncomfortable. You're telling on yourself.
All right, let's examine this part, though, right? Because the news is happening fast, and things are getting normalized, and things are being tested through the Constitution is being tested through acts that are unconstitutional, and we'll see what happens with the courts as in the first couple of weeks of America being in this new state, invite a president that appears to have been bought as a puppet by Elon Musk to stay out of prison, lords over the entertainment, booing Taylor Swift because the American president is now in power, lording over all of this, and is welcome here because he's not only stayed out of prison successfully, he's now climbed to the top of the food chain on power. And Bezos and Musk and all of these people, and the NFL bowed before him once. They respect the power. They have the power. They're using the power because it seems like the office is now just dismantling government, where we're in a situation over the last 14 days where I'm watching, just buried in the news stream. Wait a minute, Really? We're doing camps in Guantanamo? Lawless camps? We're like, America's good with that, and it's just, one of 10 items.
They've spoken to it. Like, see, Bannon, I think, spoke to the Wall Street Journal, flooding the zone. There's just so much that you can't seize on one thing because everything is happening all at once.
But strategically, okay, to have as the 10th item, and I understand, like, once you've gotten to the point where the rhetoric is, well, we'll just turn Gaza into the Riviera. That's how we'll solve it. We'll displace those people. Like, once that's the conversation this early, and people want to celebrate the excess and the gluttony, and they want to get lost in sports, and don't tell me about Kaepernick, and don't tell me about end racism. Wasn't that a fun halftime show? It was so artistic in the middle of that. It was so much more peaceful than the ways we did it when at the beginning of this run in Kansas City, the players held hands 4 years ago, and we booed unity. Like that stadium was booing the Kansas City Chiefs just holding hands on the idea of unity. The progress through all of that in football gets to the more peaceful time where Patrick Mahomes, people enjoyed watching that lose yesterday. Patrick Mahomes had a real power when he got Goodell to apologize for all the stuff that happened with Kaepernick. But we're in a new age now with new people in power. And you will see the corporations bend to the whims of this man because the NFL has already showed you that they're scared of him. The NFL and its owners align with him politically. And so what you're watching happen in the middle of all this creates a great deal of unrest for me, obviously, to see in the middle of the excess that, we're going to take a temporary departure from camps. Like, camps is the 10th news item. Like, and we're going to be good with that. Like, so anyway, I'm sorry
I'm trying to follow. It was the audio mixing for me and the song selection at the start made it hard to get in. Like when he has the bar at the start, like you picked the right time but the wrong guy. I'm like, all right, what are we getting into? And then we're like, oh, there's a bit of a slow burn, and the audio mixing just isn't great.
Where are you with giving me details about Harry Connick Jr. that will either prove or disprove that Chris Cody is either wrong or just spectacularly disrespectful? I don't think he gets to be right here.
Well, it's just I don't. It was a part just for New Orleans. It was a celebration of New Orleans music, and they put out a bunch of luminaries, and Harry Connick Jr. was tickling the ivories and being MC. That makes sense. Anytime I've seen it, like Harry Connick Jr. has been the face of New Orleans music scene for a very long time at all these award shows. There's been hurricanes that have hit the area, and Harry Connick Jr. has done a lot of great work, and he's usually, when they want to do something super New Orleans that speaks to the city's character and strength, he's one of the first calls that they make.
Speaking of character and strength, I wanted to play a video for you guys, and I don't know how many of you have seen it or heard anything about this, okay? I have not seen it. I don't know all of the stories of Stugotz on Radio Row. I just know some of them. The words that have gotten back to me, careening. Just careening through the week, just talking to anybody who would talk to him. Everybody's got a microphone in his face, delighted to be interviewed, just humming nonstop. Billy, you can speak to this better than I can because I was not watching him, and I don't know how tired you are from chasing him around. Do you know the video I'm about to play here of Stugotz? The DraftKings, the publicity team, caught up with Stugotz at a casino and was talking to him or caught up with him on Radio Row and was talking to him about slots, and he gave an answer. Do you know this video?
I have not seen this yet.
All right,
no.
let's just react in real time, all of us here, to Stugotz being asked what he would do if he won a giant jackpot on the slots.
I'd like to think of myself as a guy, if I won the jackpot on a slot machine, I'd just be handing out money to everybody. It's just the way I am. If I won $50K, that person's definitely getting $5,000, right? $5,000. So I still net out $45,000. Jackpot.
Yo, chicken time.
Come on. He said I'm that kind of guy. He said it's just the kind of guy I am. I'll give away $5,000.
You're not that kind of guy.
He's full of shit. That's what he is. That's the kind of guy you are.
Who's the person he's giving it to? It's a slot machine.
None of it makes sense.
It's just the guy I am?
Like
Santa Claus of handing out cash? Is that what you assume Stugotz
I had
be?
to watch this multiple times because I'm like, is he doing a thing where he's being sarcastic and he's looking at the camera like No. This is like genuine. He's like, it's the kind of guy I am. If I won $50K, I would just start handing out $5,000.
So he's out here handing out $100 bills like MC Hammer, I guess, right?
Or like Joker in Batman '89. Maybe in the last 72 hours, he's completely changed the guy that he is. You considered that?
We can ask him when he shows up.
Well, that kind of feels like the old Stu.
Just
the kind of guy I am. I wanted to like scream.
Well, tell me what's happening there.
Lies.
Yeah, but what is he trying? Who's he trying to fool? Like
Taylor.
And it's working.
Forgive me for stammering all over it, but I'm genuinely confused as to what's the play there. Like, is it to make DraftKings think he's a charitable fellow who gives out money by the hundreds? Like, who's the audience he's lying for? Or is it just the pleasure of the lie?
Because I saw another one of these where they asked him about blackjack, where he did his Stugotz thing of, I play how I want, I don't give a shit, where I was like, that's the Stugotz I know. He's playing, like, that's the hits right there, baby. Yeah. And then the next one, he's this, like, earnest, I'd start, you kid, $550K, I would hand it out to anyone who needs it. That's the kind of guy I am. And I'm like, what happened between those two videos? Yeah.
Getting back to Tom Brady's watch, if you guys were being paid like that, would you do it 750,000 strong for a watch?
All right, so most people that have fancy wristwear, the watch is kind of in line with the salary that they make, and I think you'd be kind of shocked that relative to his net worth, that's what the normal
I understand
Rolex would be.
I understand the fashion choice that's being made there. I've just never been comfortable with the idea of wearing a watch of any kind other than like that thing that you guys made fun of me for the grandfather, the pocket watch I had. But
I love my piece. It meant a lot to me. It signified a mile marker, and people feel certain ways about it.
Your piece?
Yeah, my wrist piece.
Jessica, I do believe that people who are watch aficionados would tell you.
They say peace?
That this is a statement that you're
it's a timepiece.
That you're absolutely, you want to make the statement that's $750,000 on your wrist, whatever that statement is. It's just not something I would ever understand. That
Dan, I would say relative to the net worth, I'm making a much larger statement.
Talk about Mike's watches. I think he wants you
that's
to
what
do.
I wanted to.
What's your flex?
He wants you to ask about his watch.
You got like a gold popcorn bowl or something?
Here's the reason I bring up the entire thing.
It was an ugly watch.
A gold popcorn bowl? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, he won an MTV Movie Award.
The reason that I bring all of it up was to stick my toe in the water here of offering people who cannot be trusted here.
I have a very nice watch.
A vulnerability.
What percentage of your net worth is it?
Probably more than Tom Brady's.
Wow. So it's more of a statement than Tom's.
I'm making a much larger statement.
Yeah.
Day in and day out.
He wants us to ask him about his piece. Stan.
Ask him about his piece.
Yeah, I know he does.
Fluted bezel.
And I'm not going to ask
Jubilee
him.
bracelet, because that's how Ric Flair wore it. Wow. And that's what matters.
Styling and profiling.
Yeah. My discomfort is such that my wife got me as a gift recently a nice watch. I don't know anything about them. And it was, I don't know, I'm going to say it was 6 months ago. And I probably insult her by not wearing it. But I am not comfortable wearing an expensive watch. It feels too showy to me. And so when you go $750,000 on the most watched game on television, you're showing that, to me, I don't understand it. It's not even judging it, although obviously it sounds like that. There's something about me that makes me not confident enough to want to throw that in everybody's face.
Well, he's not. He's got cuffs over it. I would venture to say it's probably not even his most expensive watch.
You imagine his watch collection has tons of watches that are over $800,000.
Dan, this is why people think rich people should pay more taxes. Yeah.
It's one of the many reasons.
There's so many people that go to bed hungry every night, but Tom Brady's got an $800,000 watch.
Yeah.
And so I can't say any of this, though, without appearing judgmental, but I'm really speaking to a vulnerability here where I can't come to, like, my wife has given me a gift. My wife is an extraordinarily thoughtful gift giver. She is known by everybody as a thoughtful gift giver. So what she's given me is a watch that, if you believe in the idea that these things give off your personality or speak to who you are, or you're making some sort of statement about who you are to people with what you're wearing on your wrist, this is who she imagines me to be. I do not imagine myself to be that.
Hold on. Who's making more of a statement? Tom Brady, who has the expensive watch and wears it, or Dan, who has the expensive watches and doesn't wear them, but tells us he has the expensive watches?
Because he feels bad about it.
Yeah.
That's a good question, Bill.
Yeah, one of them is a confident person, and one of them is me.
So I found this
But both are rich.
this partnership that Tom Brady had with Sotheby's, and his watch collection's ridiculous. This is what he decided, hey, I need to do some spring cleaning. There's like 3 different watches in here that are up to $500,000.
Well, he probably doesn't even have to. Like, I don't know. I would love to know what some of these deals are, because I don't know if Eugene Levy gets some sort of
Gets paid in pizza.
some sort of pizza deal, or who was it? Oh, I wondered if Harrison Ford in the Jeep commercial. I imagine they just gave him a Jeep, right? Like he gets a couple of Jeeps out of that.
And then he
deal.
gave it to his son-in-law.
Right, something like that is probably. Wouldn't you imagine?
Wait, you think he's going to keep one of them, Chris?
No, I just think, like, if you're Harrison Ford and you get a Jeep, you look at your family, who needs a Jeep? Kyle needs a Jeep.
Why
So
is
you
it
text
always
him.
Kyle
You
with
text
you?
him. Hey, Kyle, I got a
Ben
Jeep
and
for you."
Chad.
That was a long commercial, the Harrison Ford one. He got at least 5 Jeeps for that one.
I imagine that Tom Brady probably has a lot of very expensive watches that were free, that he didn't have to pay for at all because he's just Tom Brady. One would imagine.
Well, whoever his timepiece partner is, they should be upset that he doesn't have exclusivity, because this is a very deep and vast and varied watch collection that he decided to sell for auction.
People don't understand. Like, they think being nice to a rich person is going to benefit them in some way. We don't know who gave Tom Brady these watches for free. And it probably cost them a lot. They just had to eat that cost to be friends with Tom Brady. Tom Brady doesn't even remember their name or mention it ever. So what was the point
But
of
if
giving
they
him that
gave
watch for
us
free?
one of those watches,
Yeah.
we would remember.
Oh, he's singing from the mountaintops.
It would be great.
That hill that I was going to die on.
advertising for that. Yep.
There's roughly 2 dozen watches on this Sotheby's auction.
He's
that I saw of
auctioning
his.
them?
Yeah, that he
I
was
don't like
auctioning.
that.
And there was at least
Give it
one.
away. Put it in a UNICEF box. You know what I mean? What does he need to auction a watch off for if you're Tom Brady? You've got enough.
There's at least one available for auction that is priced higher than the one that he was wearing for the broadcast.
We should buy it.
Dan?
We'll figure out the bit later.
Yeah, that's a good idea,
We're never
Billy.
going to go back to the Super Bowl, Billy.
That is a good idea, Billy. What are the highlights? I saw that Stugotz is now in makeup. They are working hard in another room. Can the video crew get a live shot of Stugotz in the other room getting ready in an emergency? He has flown in an emergency, God bless football, to bail us out, to bail out God bless football. Let's get the video up in the other room so that we can see Stugotz. Look at it. Heroic Stugotz has arrived on a red eye from Chicago. Again, that tube could not have smelled good the day after the Super Bowl, and he is going to come in here with all fresh takes. These are not takes that are going to appear on God Bless Football. That's just Billy and Mikey.
Later for the TV.
And
Also, this was not a red eye. He went in the morning. Red eye, he would have been here on time. He was flying in from Chicago.
Yeah, but Dan famously
Not Taiwan.
he lumps the Midwest in together. So really, he could have been anywhere in that. He could have been in Toronto.
You
for
know
all
what?
Dan knows.
I'm sorry. I was told by Carl that it was a red eye, and I didn't double check.
There isn't a flight that he's on that his eyes aren't red. All right.
So he's going to come in here in just a few moments. Roy, how are you feeling physically today? Are you? Did you do Super Bowl? Yes, you, Roy. What other Roy would I be talking to?
I mean, there are plenty of Roys out there. I don't know, Dan.
What do you mean you?
I'm just surprised you went to me. That's all. That's why I said, what, me?
He said me?
Roy, what are your thoughts on Harry Connick Jr.?
He's a good performer. He turned into a good actor. Yeah,
Oh, you're with me. No, you're with me.
Yeah,
Come
we
on.
don't know what, but
You're playing nice.
Yeah.
If Roy doesn't even appreciate this era of gentlemen, Dan, I mean,
I'm looking up these Brady watches. What a racket this guy has, huh? So, like, it says pre-sale estimate like $5,000 to $10,000 for this watch. Final sale price $42,000. So everything just gets that it was on Tom Brady's wrist, maybe at one point in time price.
I'm feeling good, by the way, Dan. Thanks for asking.
This is like that episode of Seinfeld where they're going around and it's like, this was John Voight's car, and it was another John Voight. Jabba Chamberlain used to tell us that, like, when he was on God Bless Football, Jabba Chamberlain would tell us, like, that the baseball players had, like, a racket where they'd get, like, the car, like, lease for free for, like, a year or two, and then just sign the dashboard at the end of, like, their lease. And then the dealer would go off an auction like, this was Aaron Judge's car. Look, it's autographed by him. And they'd pay way more than whatever the leasing option was that they were getting it for free.
Funny that you mentioned that, because David Sampson spent money on Bono's sunglasses, and I'm hoping that there was, like, an error in accounting, and it's actually Steve Bono's.
Yeah, or Chaz.
I realize, okay, that Roy goes long stretches without speaking. But for me to say on our program, Roy, and then a question, and for him to respond genuinely surprised with me, is one of the most amazing things I've ever heard on our show.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
I was asking you how you felt and if you ate poorly during the Super Bowl.
No, I don't believe I ate poorly. I ordered some food from Anthony's coal-fired pizza. I had some wings, some dry rub wings. That was very good. Had a couple of pizzas with Anita and Claire, and that was it. So, yeah, no drinking.
A couple of pizzas.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did Claire think?
Claire loved the pizza. She was a fan of that. She did not have an opinion about the halftime show. She was ushered to bed.
Ushered to bed.
I can't believe how little alcohol this room drank for the Super Bowl. I didn't drink at all. Mike didn't drink. Jess, did you drink?
No, I didn't drink. I ate a lot.
Yeah,
though.
we just all ate.
I've
Good
decided
God, we ate.
this year I'm going to do a themed Super Bowl party. Me and Lehman did a whole New Orleans theme.
Midsummer
It
Nights.
looked good.
I made a king cake from scratch. It's in the kitchen right now if anyone wants to try it. It was shockingly very tasty.
I'm not eating for 2 more days.
Why do you say shockingly? You generally have great successes baking. Like when or you have a lot. You lack confidence making these things.
Well, it was a yeasted dough, so I don't normally make things of that nature with my gluten-free problems because it's very hard to stretch dough without gluten. But I said, let's just roll the dice and see what happens. I used the gluten-free King Arthur flour in their recipe with the whole blog and everything, and it came out of the oven split in half. You could see the filling coming out, but once you put the frosting on, no one knew the difference.
Is your mouth watering while you talk about it?
Yes.
It sounds like it.
Would you like to try? It's gluten-free, Dan.
Yes, I would.
It's not
like
dairy-free,
Yes,
though.
oh no, can't do it then.
Oh,
What?
man.
Come on. Live a little.
Yeah, have ice cream in the second quarter and eat it with a chicken wing. Dip a chicken wing in it. Can you guys explain something to me because I don't
Salty and
understand.
sweet.
Okay. I'm gonna go down this path with you because you guys are telling me yes, this is what the drugs do. They
Can we
make
bring
me.
Stugotz in for this discussion?
Yes,
He'd get us.
He'll be here in a second.
Like Jesus, he gets us.
Okay, so he'll be here in a second. Stugotz will be here with all his takes, and perhaps he can explain the munchies to us as well. But when I see, for example, that Cincinnati famously has Skyline chili, and now there is a Skyline chili ice cream, and I don't understand that, right? Now, maybe all ice cream's good, right? There's no such thing as bad ice cream, is
To
there?
be specific, this was a pistachio gelato.
Why did you say that
Just
that way?
happened.
Why did you just say that?
Clarifying on it, it wasn't
Yeah,
ice
but-
cream. It was gelato.
Why'd you say it like that?
It was a Skyline pistachio gelato.
Just said it, all right? Let me be.
No.
But what did you just do? Were you trying to give us a pistachio?
Turn to one of the Super
Were
Mario
you,
Brothers.
Were you Giada for a second?
Was that Italian you were going for
I think
there?
I was just trying to flare up my
It worked.
my gelato.
You did it again, huh?
He's not totally confident on whether he can do this or not.
Wait, this was a Skyline thing?
At least we're not stopping down and focusing on it.
So they decided to, Skyline Chili decided to make a partnership
Yes.
with an ice cream but call it gelato?
No, that is
All right,
no.
I'm trying to follow.
Oh, so
There is cinnamon in Skyline Chili.
there
and a
was
Kelsey Super Bowl ring too.
people enjoyed him losing yesterday, right?
I think that's why they were booing Taylor Swift. I think all the Eagles fans saw her and booed her.
Dude,
I don't think they were like, hey, she endorsed Kamala Harris.
The crazy thing is, like Super Bowls, everyone that's ever been to one, I've never been to one, has told me it's actually not the greatest game atmosphere.
I've been to a few. It is sometimes very boring.
Well, you went to the Rams-Patriots one. That was bad.
I've been to good ones too, but that one was very, very
But I
good.
thought
That
it
was
came
also the Maroon 5 Super Bowl.
Look at me,
I think it came across on the broadcast that atmosphere at the game looked really fun. And my buddy Master was at the game, and I texted him. He's like, I'm shocked at how crazy this atmosphere was. It was decidedly pro-Eagles. Granted, by midway through the second quarter, they were the only fans making noise at that game. But I was really stunned at how many Eagles fans got their way into what is essentially a corporate event.
Oh, it's not just a corporate event. I mean, we've been on this ride here for a little bit with Diana Rossini as she's making decisions between things she wants to do because she wants to do them and for her career, and her husband, the Eagles fan, feeling like he's living through a time. I will speak to this today because it's going to get obnoxious over the next week. Philadelphia fans are annoying. They are loud. They are proud. It is a crazed and rabid fan base that prides itself on, Mark Wahlberg will be an Eagle as a walk-on in the movie because we're the town for Rocky, and we're the town where athletic grit becomes representative of who our people are, who our city is. They are a source of great, great regional pride, this team. To have it be the one that wins among the spaceships with just punching you in the face, just physically dominating you, dragging Patrick Mahomes up and down the field because they were just physically overwhelming on everybody. Everybody dies at their doorstep this year, and it's a physical beating that they're taking from a defensive line and an offensive line that is just stronger than yours. The Kansas City Chiefs come in with that pedigree, and if they had not been the Kansas City Chiefs with that quarterback, we'd be calling that team an epic and historic fraud for all time this season, based on the season they had, beating Carolina over here by 3 points, and everyone, and going down and winning all these one-score games, and then when they ran into a juggernaut, they just got dragged up and down the field by a football team that's been not playing close games.
Yeah, but I guess they did beat Buffalo, and I know that they were at home there, but I'm with you. If any other team that didn't have the success that Kansas City had attached to it entered this Super Bowl and went out that way, they'd be called a huge fraud. They'd be looked at as the Kerry Collins Giants or as the Stan Humphries Chargers.
The Rex Grossman Bears.
Yeah, where they become a punchline, but I think everyone kind of understands the greatness there. You mentioned like the physicality. There was one moment in that game where it was very telling to me, because Patrick Mahomes is Josh Allen levels when it comes to the officials and trying to get calls the entire time. When he fumbled, he very clearly got hit in the head. Both hands went to the head. That is a textbook call. I have never seen Patrick Mahomes not get up and complain about what just happened there. He didn't at all. He kind of conceded. Not just the game, but also conceded, I don't think I want to be out here.
Well, let's talk about this part for a second, okay? Because this part, as we make these people superhuman or unhuman, as Tom Brady likes to call them, the size and scope of all of this, America's biggest game, and the pressure it puts on athletes, Patrick Mahomes, whatever he imagined his life would be at Texas Tech, I imagine a whole bunch of stuff has come into it, most of it wildly positive. His record in postseason games has such extraordinary success that when they weren't getting calls, they complained about it up and down in that one game, became crybabies. It was ugly. It was like an ugly lack of dignity from a champion, and we all seized on it and noticed it. In that game yesterday, there were a few calls early that helped the Eagles. Like those were bad calls, questionable calls. There was one that went against the Chiefs as well. But when Mike speaks to what he's talking about there, it's really rare for you to be watching a football game, because when you're talking about 24 yards in the first half for Patrick Mahomes, like that's an uncommon kind of strangling we're talking about.
It was
there.
13 first downs in the first half to 1.
But it's not just ball control. It's what I'm about to say about where it is that all your knows how to win can go flying out in the most pressurized situations, because this guy comes back from 10. except he knows that this felt early the way Tampa did, where it's like, whoa, they're getting here fast. There are 4 of them. If there are 4 of them, and now my receivers aren't Tyreek Hill anymore. Like, it's a bunch of these guys, and when I get it to DeAndre Hopkins, he's so at the end of his career that DeAndre Hopkins may never have had that drop before in his entire career. A man who has more tackles than drops because he does not drop the football. The embers of their skill position players that have been eaten up by the salary cap because you think you can do it every time with Mahomes, when he comes back into the pocket and he can't just step up into the middle of it and run through your defense. Wow, Patrick Mahomes ends up looking totally mortal and scared. Like, if I don't think he was actually scared, but wherever it is that the feet are on, wait a minute, it's 3 and out and 3 and out. Now I'm remembering all season this has been, I've got to get 6 yards on 3rd and 5. I can't do it against this team. I just threw it to Kelsey twice. What was that? What was that? I thought I had Kelsey. They know Kelsey's my only option, and they're getting here awfully fast.
I just never have seen Patrick Mahomes just kind of admit through the lack of something that I can't do this. I can't come back in this one. Even in that Tampa Super Bowl, he's still diving around and releasing a ball just this far off the ground, trying his hardest and still not giving up. And last night, I mean, I think he even went out there and threw an absolute beauty to Xavier Worthy after the fact, because it's his job, he has to. But him not complaining about that flag was just respectful of his opponent, in that, man, you guys got us today. And also just, this kind of hurts. I don't think I want to take, I think at that point he had like 4 straight negative plays, and he was just over it.
It's really hard to do the analysis on a good team losing in the Super Bowl. Like, we saw them all season. We were like, this Chiefs team is flawed, and eventually it will catch up to them. But it didn't until the Super Bowl. And now it's kind of like, well, what do they really need to, like, blow the whole thing up? Like, I don't think so. They made it all the way to the Super Bowl, but they clearly were outmatched in this game in the trenches. So what do you do now? Like, you've already tried to put a lot into your offensive line. I guess you need to do even more. But, like, at the end of the day, they still made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So, and they have Patrick Mahomes. There's not a whole lot you would trade for that.
It can't be, though. It can't be to go from, your 2 halves away from a three-peat, something that's never been done in the sport, to do you blow it up because that was that obvious in that game. But this is how obvious it was, and it's worth noting in terms of the differences between what the Chiefs were when they beat the Eagles and what the Eagles are now. In the space age, where they've got the biggest, strongest guys up front, do you realize that in this game that we're watching, after you guys have told me, and we understand how we came upon the premise, even Las Vegas Money said this was so. No, man, Andy Reid is smarter at this stuff, and Spags is smarter in this stuff, and the quarterback doesn't make any mistakes, and he knows how to win. These people know how to win. Yes, they do. Spags sure knew how to win, stopping Saquon Barkley, because I haven't seen it all season. The problem is they have too much on offense. You stop their run game, and what happens? Jalen Hurts is playing quarterback in an entirely different sport that Patrick Mahomes is, because he gets to just sit back there and run around, and he's got these receivers that are actually good because he's got 2 number ones, and you saved money at quarterback there, and that's where it is that the Eagles run down the throat of the dynasty and take it over with a cement mixer, because this is not a subtle object. Like, you stop their MVP, and what? And what? They've got Goddard didn't do anything in that game. Goddard hit you for 120 in a game because they're just overwhelming.
Well, and it's strange to say in a game where where you give up 40 points, but like that was not on Spags.
One of them was a pick 6.
No, exactly. The field position battle was ridiculous. Patrick Mahomes was giving them the ball on like the 5-yard line. All they had to do was rush it in to score. So Spags didn't have a bad game, even though the Eagles scored 40 points.
Right. It was the Chiefs' offense.
There's also field goals left and right.
Yeah, right. And like they couldn't scheme the offense around the fact that the Eagles were getting pressure with 4 on the front the entire game.
Those 2 things there is no answer for. When, like, I'm telling you, we analyze the holy hell out of this sport. But when the disparity on offensive and defensive lines is that overt that everyone eating a chicken wing after ice cream can see it. Like, whether you're on the munchies or not, you're just watching the sport and you're like, Oh, I know what Kansas City is. I know their mythology. Oh, it's 24-0. They're not going to do anything in the second half. Like there are no adjustments to this. They could talk about it at halftime, but there are no adjustments to Fangio's sitting up there. He can be eating those Eugene Levy puffs. He didn't have to do anything. He didn't call a blitz all game.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Venmo.
Stugotz is here, and because he has had a week in Super Bowl heaven, and these are his first words at the microphone for the week, we must treasure them. This is the mighty God of God Bless Football coming down from the mountain, emergency flying in the morning, so he can give you his freshest and hottest takes as God Bless Football puts the punctuation on an award-winning #1 football podcast in America season.
The draft is right around the corner, Dano. I mean,
he's got his weekend observations ready, but he's never flown in on a Monday, and first things he speaks into a mic are weekend observations. So we're going to give him a minute to gather himself because I'm sure he's got something for the Chiefs. I guess I probably have to lift the moratorium on Stugotz getting to talk about the Chiefs, right? Because now
I was right, yes.
3 years later, at the very end, Stugotz gets to be right after being spectacularly wrong. I don't think this qualifies as right, Stugotz.
What do you mean?
Alex Smith wins that game.
Thank you.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show, Juju. Does Alex Smith win that game? We'll get to the weekend observations in a second. I want all of Billy's observations on a personal week spent with Stugotz because I'm sure we've only gotten to part of the stories. I'm being told that Billy's flying back with Venus Williams, with Braxton Berrios, with Raheem Mostert. Like he's celebrity hobnobbing.
They're different flights, Dan.
Right, Mostert was on the
One
way
way
there,
with
I
some
believe.
celebs, another way with another. I tried to orchestrate what I thought would have been one of our better social media posts, but then I cowered and backed down at the last minute. So our flight was at 7 o'clock on Friday evening. Could have been sooner, but, that's a story for another day. So our flight was at 7 o'clock on Friday, flying back. And you go and you sit down, and it's just like a who's who of, like celebrities and football players. Almost to the point it was like, who is this who? Because someone was walking through with a giant Bounty jacket on that they got when they were going around doing Radio Row. And we couldn't exactly place a name on who it was that was still wearing their Bounty jacket on our flight. But like Jonnu Smith was on our flight, and David Njoku was on our flight, and Venus Williams was on our flight, and there's a player from an Unrivaled on our flight.
All in first class, I assume.
No, there were so many people that they ran out of first class seats. Like, I'm not even joking. I was shocked because I booked the flight a month and a half ago, so I got row 2 of normal people seating, so I was row 9 or whatever, right? And when I'm seeing some of these people walk past me, and I'm like, this just does not feel right. I'm not supposed to be sitting further up on the airplane than these people. And we've discussed this a number of times, and I thought it on the way up, because on the way up, I saw Raheem Mostert on my flight. We had an awkward exchange. On the way up, I had Raheem Mostert on my flight, and I said, you know what? If Raheem's on my flight, nothing's going to happen to this airplane.
Yep,
I thought that. And
or no one will remember you were on that flight.
On that one,
yes.
That one, I would have been on a note. You know what I mean?
Surely you guys are actually treating this as less of a joke given recent aviation issues.
Yes, I got to tell you, Dan, nothing made me feel better than when I was flying to New Orleans and Jimmy Johnson was on my flight. A ball coach. Because I feel better when I'm flying and there's a coach on the flight. I do. He'll take care of stuff.
Look, we need to talk about Jimmy Johnson in a second.
Get us organized.
Look, we need to, a lot happened.
He was on
yesterday.
Survivor.
Excited to see him in the Xfinity Series this year.
A lot happened yesterday. Hubie Brown retires at 91 years old.
Tip of the cap.
I think Jimmy Johnson retired, but it's not totally clear. I think he retired.
That was bull. What Jimmy Johnson did. Don't play with my emotions.
What'd he do?
Hey, did you guys not see this?
No.
All right, it was before Harry Connick Jr. allegedly spoke the first words. So they used AI for this career retrospective of Jimmy Johnson. It was cool. It's you meet 17-year-old Jimmy Johnson playing at Arkansas. And AI Jimmy Johnson is literally walking the fields of his career. And he's like, I was a graduate assistant at Louisiana Tech where I recruited a quarterback named Terry Bradshaw. And AI Terry Bradshaw shows up. And he's like, we'll see each other later. And now me, obviously knowing where this is going, I'm like, all right, show me Jimmy Johnson from the U. You see Jimmy Johnson from the U. You see the Apex jacket And how about them Cowboys era? And it's actually pretty cool. At the end of it, everybody is on stage. Jay Glazer, that's how you know it's important. They bring the whole team together. They're all standing there around Jimmy.
That is how you know. It is how you
Glazer,
know.
yeah.
It is how you know it's important. Like Strahan and Brady were walking on Bourbon Street to celebrate Lady Gaga, and behind Jimmy Johnson was Jay Glazer, and it gave me comfort to know I'm walking towards something large. He's been allowed to be the hood ornament on the biggest thing.
So he's talking to you about his entire career. You're like, okay. About halfway through, you catch on. Wait a second, is Jimmy Johnson about to retire? And you see Jay Glazer on the set, and you're like, Jimmy Johnson's going to retire. And they go on, and Jimmy's crying, and he's saying, like, this is the happiest he's ever been in his life. And there's all sorts of reporting out there about Terry Bradshaw retiring. We didn't see anything about Terry Bradshaw, so I'm like, wow, did they get it wrong? Or is that maybe in the future Terry Bradshaw retires? I'm like, we're just saying goodbye to Jimmy Johnson. This is a moment. Am I getting emotional? And then Kurt asked him at the very end, like, is this goodbye? And he's like, one day at a time. You can't do that. You can't. No, this was goodbye. I'm emotionally prepared for goodbye.
Right.
This is like when Kirk Herbstreit brought a second dog around that looked exactly like the first dog.
Yeah. Peter.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Did Jimmy Johnson retire yesterday? Yes or no?
What is the point of not actually retiring? Don't tell me after a 15-minute segment you don't like big drawn-out goodbyes.
Don't cry unless you're retiring.
If you're doing another year, that's it. My tears on you, done.
Walk me through, okay, because old man tears are something that made an appearance over the last few days with a couple of local icons who I've greatly respected, who were built very differently in the way that they did their jobs, because it was leaked in a way that was dirty and interesting, that Pat Riley wept when trying to convince
Crocodile tears.
Jimmy Butler to come back to Miami, and it was meant to shame Pat Riley, the idea that you would get so
You can't cry, Dan.
Yeah, that's a sign of weakness.
yeah, if you're a man.
If my boss cried to me, though, I'd probably be like,
No, understood. So I want to talk about some of this stuff because I've actually gone through grief with both of these men. And when you get older, Chris, you know this, your dad cries, I don't even know the person your dad is anymore in terms of what he used to be in terms of all male repressions and how now, late in life, appreciating little things after going to hell and back on life and death, all of a sudden, your dad will cry and I don't even recognize it.
Anything gets him nowadays.
Right.
And so to shame...
That Google commercial?
Hell and back.
Yes, Greg Cody...
I was also wondering. Yeah.
Yes, Greg Cody walked to the edge of hell, coughing the whole way, wheezing.
He was just going to Buffalo.
He was at Dana
Right.
Highlight
Yeah,
or whatever
that's
it's
it.
called.
I mean,
With Bernie Palm.
He coughed himself into a faint at Dana Highlight. Yes, and I'm
And
sorry.
we all said this is how he wants to go.
at Miami Highlight.
that's a fine.
It is a fine.
It's Magic City.
It's a double fine.
Wow.
I'm going to pay both of those
Know your battle court
fines
partnerships.
right now. Yes, I'm sorry. We are proud to own a Cyclones team that we have not talked about in a while.
Go Cones.
1 and 2 on the year.
But I do want to talk about these two men and their tears because I want to ask you, Stugotz. Like, let me take you through the journey of whatever it is that Jimmy Johnson did or didn't do.
Well, that's a great way to
yesterday
put it.
in
Like,
retirement.
whatever it was that he did, because it was supposed to be a retirement,
Right.
and he didn't actually say he was going to retire.
Maybe he forgot.
He actually had an opportunity to, and he's like, now's not the time for that. When is the time, Jimmy? That
One
was
day
the
at a time,
do you
Mike.
think
One
they
day.
maybe wanted to test out the AI technology and they're like, what should we do with this? Let's make a tribute to Jimmy Johnson. Is he going to retire this year? I don't know, but we can play it anyways.
Maybe he already did, but AI Jimmy didn't want to retire. And this was a fake Jimmy Johnson the entire time. And they're like, we can't have another season of fake Jimmy Johnson. They're going to catch on to us eventually. So then they had fake Jimmy Johnson needing to come out and retire to put an end because fake Jimmy Johnson has been doing this for who knows how long, a year, maybe 2 years. The real Jimmy, it's unknown where the real Jimmy Johnson, he may be fishing, he may be somewhere else. Not for me to say, but the question is maybe fake Jimmy Johnson was finally supposed to retire because people were catching on to the technology. And now he has become aware and he's making decisions on his own and fake Jimmy Johnson didn't want to retire.
If I may.
You may.
Jimmy Johnson famously did the stuff that Nick Saban did testing his ego in the pros. And when he got to the Miami Dolphins, what he thought was his dream job, at the end of that, because of what it demanded of him, because of the emotions it unleashed, when his mother died, he shows up at the funeral, sobs in the arms of his sons for not being there for him, or for them, because football consumed him so much.
Is this real Jimmy or fake Jimmy?
It's a good question.
One that was on your plane.
Well, which one was that? It was drinking. I mean, it was. It was watching a Mormon show.
Relax.
I mean,
Lizards.
Yeah.
Sounds
R.I.P.
like something fake Jimmy would do.
R.I.P. Jim Mandich.
For
Mad Dog.
Jimmy Johnson to learn while staring over his mother's casket that he needed to leave football. And for him to share with Wayne Huizenga, the late owner of the Dolphins, the idea of QTL, quality time left. Jimmy Johnson's been thinking about mortality for a long time, and every time I see him walking through, after having to fly across the country at his age, done with this shit a long time ago. The only reason he's doing that is because he's friends with Bradshaw. That thing is the closest thing that we have on television in sports to a family outside of what's on inside the NBA. Like, it's the closest thing. Those people truly care about each other. They've walked each other through difficult parts of life. And it represents an American icon in that Jimmy Johnson's been there since the beginning of Fox Television. He helped build that entire media empire by being one of the first star media people who could carry a network. And so I wouldn't blame him if he was done, but you can't do it that way, Jimmy. It's cheating. Like, either tell us or don't. Not one day at a time.
Cheating.
No, you're cheating, Jimmy. Jimmy, you're cheating. Like, you either tell us you're retiring or you're not retiring so we can celebrate your career and give you the eulogy here while you're still alive.
Or you just tell Jay Glazer to stand back. But when you bring him onto that set and he's there and Gronk's there and everyone's just sharing their favorite Jimmy Johnson
Too
memories.
many people there, honestly.
Also, Glazer's a chatty Cathy. He knows the truth about everything. I mean, how about some professionalism and tell if he's retiring or not? You know what I mean? All of a sudden, we're not going to report a story
Give us
we may
the
know.
scoop, yeah.
Exactly
I
right,
mean, it's
Glaze.
Jimmy's retirement. Billy is right about this. Not Jay Glazer's retirement.
Well, I said the opposite.
Well, it's not his retirement. Like, why didn't he announce it there?
He told us about the Jets stuff with Aaron Rodgers. Tell us if Jimmy's going or staying. Glaze, come on, man.
He would have good sources on the matter, I would think.
Stugotz would replace himself with AI Stugotz in a heartbeat.
Oh,
if it meant he
absolutely.
didn't
When
have
can
to
we do
sit
this?
here.
Yeah.
Are you actually?
Are you here?
Dan, poke him.
Not sure.
See if your hand goes through.
AI Stugotz would not pull off the rare double of leaving work early Friday and coming into work late on Monday.
Thank you, Mike.
You were not here, Stugotz,
That's
so
me.
I don't want to make accusations while you're away that we do not make to your face. So can you guys play the video, please, for Stugotz? All of us were wondering, before we get to the weekend observations, if we can get an honest answer here. Chris, help me. How do we get an honest answer here now that we've already made whatever it is our accusations are about this video? Do you know what we're about to show here, Stugotz?
I have no idea, Dan. You know, Radio Row is turned into media. It's like digital media row. People are sticking telephones in my face. I have no idea what I'm saying, who I'm talking to. I just say stuff.
All right, so just for people who don't know, I think I have this right because I was only there briefly. But what happens at Radio Row is the entire modern media sort of jostles and gets in the face of Stugotz and asks him to very aggressively be Stugotz at all times.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to walk someplace and not be Stugotz. Just like, thankfully, walking someplace and being Stugotz is just smoking a heater. So he'll do that, but he's getting jostled by the media demanding that he be all week his maximum self, correct? It's always demanding performance of you.
Yeah, and sometimes I just want to take a nice little stroll around Radio Row, and I can't do it because people are sticking telephones in my face, and they're asking me questions, and I don't know who I'm speaking to, and I'm just saying.
Okay, well, so thank you for that context because this will help me play this video. But, Billy, what I want to ask you, because Stugotz was delighted by this, right? As Stugotz explained it to me, it brought a radiant smile to my face on just all the things that Radio Row has been for many years. He was telling me the story of Stephen A. Smith walking through Radio Row, which must be uproariously funny. Like, it just has to be hundreds of people. You guys make fun of me when I tell you that Jim Rome has had a bodyguard for years. I imagine Stephen A. needs multiple bodyguards here because it's piranha around someone. I imagine Stephen A. walking through that convention center is a loud jostling. Stugotz was delighted that Stephen A. paused in the parade of Stephen A-ness to see God Bless Football, see Stugotz, and beeline for all the things that Stugotz represents to Stephen A. Smith, a moment of like genuine jostling between media brothers. What are you shaking your head about?
A beeline, the video I saw, it looked like they kind of like did a double, like a beeline would be like, holy that's Stugotz. I couldn't want to talk to anyone more. This was kind of like left, look left. Oh, is that Stu? Oh, I should go over there. All right, yeah.
Right. I should go over there. Right.
Is that what happened?
To me, it wasn't a beeline.
I felt like it was a beeline. I got to be honest.
To me, a beeline gives off like, I'm going to say hi to this guy no matter what.
The story, again, I didn't see it. It's Stugotz telling me the story, and he was excited to tell me the story.
Stephen A. was going from station to station. He stopped, and he had a group of people around him. He stopped dead in his tracks when he saw me, and he beelined straight to me and gave me a big hug.
I will admit, he did stop dead in his tracks. Not a beeline, though.
Okay, all right.
Billy, any assessment here? Were you there? Do you have a vote?
I saw the video. He went out of his way to say hi to Stugotz. Like he was going to do something else and then kind of changed directions to go say hi to Stugotz. I did see a video where Stephen A. interrupted a live interview to go say hello to Emmitt Smith. It wasn't that.
Okay.
That's a beeline.
Okay, so yes, thank you.
He walked on a stage
Well, he
in
could
the
do
middle
that.
interview, said hello to Emmitt Smith, and kept walking.
Billy said it well. Went out of his way? Definitely. Not a beeline.
Okay, so a D+ line, like whatever it is, it's
Right.
not. It was not A list. It's not B list. It's not C list. Emmitt Smith A list. Stugotz. And all of it's a jostling. My larger point is that Stugotz is in a buzzing epicenter of just content makers burping and colliding into each other, and so somebody at DraftKings put a microphone in his face, and they asked Stugotz, "Do you remember any of this? Because I'd like to know what you guys think his answer is going to be." I don't know what his answer is going to be to what it is that he's trying to achieve here.
I don't remember what my answer was.
You don't have any idea what it is that this moment is. The question is about slot machines and what you would do if you won $50,000. Do you remember this
How
question?
much would you tip, Stugotz?
I do remember the question. I have no idea how I responded.
but how
I
would
don't.
you tip? If I were just asking you now?
$50,000. How much would I tip who? Like someone in the.
You
Well,
won
that's
at
the
slot
question.
machine.
Right.
You've won at the slot machine.
But who do you tip?
I'd like to think if I won $50,000, I'd give $5,000 to someone responsible. Someone. Like just someone. I don't know. Pit boss. Someone. You know.
I'd like to think that, and that was his answer. You do like to think that, but all of us don't have any evidence that you ever act on anything other than just thinking that.
I'd like to think of myself as a guy, if I won the jackpot on a slot machine, I'd just be handing out money to everybody. It's just the way I am. If I won $50K, that person's definitely getting $5,000, right? $5,000. So I still net out $45,000. Jackpot.
Yo, chicken thigh.
I deserve it.
Yes, you do.
The kind of person you are. The kind of person you are.
It's
Would have handed a
just
single dollar to a single person.
You are not that person.
Christ, man.
How is he so consistent with his lie, though?
So the question we were asking is, who are you doing that for? Like, what are you trying to present to whom? Is the question.
I'm trying to present that if I'm a guy who kind of, stumbled into some money, that I would be free with my money. I would hand it out.
But why are you doing that? Who are you trying
You
to make think
stumbled
that?
into money like 15 years ago.
And I haven't handed
You
any
don't
out.
give a lot of it away. No, we don't have a lot of evidence here of the
How much
checks.
does your watch cost, Stugotz?
The watch.
Can you guys walk me through just really quickly? You do have any theories? Is it just that Stugotz is on autopilot and it's like, I've got to entertain when they turn on the cameras and I'm tired because I've been working 7 hours today?
That's my thought. This is like probably Thursday or Friday. This is just
He's forgotten that he's supposed to be the character, and now he's doing the interviews like they're real.
Because day two, I saw one with Blackjack where he's like, "Oh, I play my own way. You're I'm like, that's Monday or Tuesday, Stugotz.
Yes.
Billy, so let me ask you this question, Billy. Did Stugotz,
sleep.
I don't think Stugotz has taken inventory
I have it.
of some of the places where all of this would be a real battering on somebody in the media age who, shouldn't have to do 19 interviews in a day. It's a little hard. People don't understand what it is to do 19 interviews a day. I know it's not construction work on the summer.
Yeah.
Tarring roofs. But at this point in his career, I'm going to say that Stugotz, and this is no indictment of Stugotz, it would be of just about anybody his age, is going to have a stamina problem in his 50s by Thursday if it's 19 interviews a day. Like, that any human being doing that might have a stamina issue. You were doing it right there with him.
Yeah. Well, I'm confused. What?
He's asking about my stamina.
His stamina? Well, I mean, Friday was a bit of an adventure for everyone involved because a lot of the people that we had scheduled disappeared because of, not the stamina, but because of flights. And
Billy, what happened Friday? I got a text message from someone that doesn't work here that was like, Stugotz bailed on Radio Row. And I'm like, how do you even know this?
I bailed on a few guests. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I wanted to get out of there. Like, I had a plane to catch. My daughter's playing in a lacrosse game over the weekend, and we had done, as to Dan's point, I think 19 interviews a day, and one day Billy wasn't there because he was ill. And he got there late. And so I was just tired. I wanted to get out of town.
Hold on
the
a
Big
second.
Easy got to me.
Let's just, on the front end of this, because I see where this is going. I arrived that day.
It's not going anywhere.
Because of scheduling, I missed one interview over Zoom that I was scheduled to be there for. Right. So I missed one interview on Zoom. Now, the problem on Friday is that we had a number of people guests, and we played this game where nobody knew what time the flight was at. So we were booking guests, but we didn't know up until like 10 o'clock at night the day before what time Stugotz actually had to leave by. So when we finally got that information, we had to cancel all of the guests for the next day because none of them were going to line up with the time that he had to be out of there by. So we had to cancel, a number of guests. Now, the crew, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the crew, but many in the crew were quite peeved at this situation because there was a flight 5 hours earlier that the entire crew could have been on. And as a result, we ended up going, at 9 a.m. that day for us to interview Bomani, which we could theoretically do at any point in time. But we did it that day, and then all of the guests that we had scheduled had disappeared. Now, the crew, I think, is not happy because they apparently secretly recorded something that was going on that Friday. And this was a person, after Stugotz had left, the crew had to stick around, and now they have to break down the set, which, again, they could have done the day before, or they could have done earlier in the day had they known what time the flight was at and gotten out of there at 2 instead of 7. So we had some help when we were breaking down the set, and I was very bad at helping break down the set, but I was there pitching in, and then lo and behold, a friend of the show just decided, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to help pick up all of your equipment for us. And Dominique Foxworth decided, being the nice guy that he is, not to give away $5,000 for $150, but to literally break down and clean up Stugotz's set after Stugotz was gone out of town.
Right.
Even though we saw him like an hour later still just walking around Radio Row doing interviews with
Had
people.
a plane to catch.
Yeah.
Jessica, you're shaking your head in something. I don't know exactly how to read what it is that I'm reading there. Yes, Dominique Foxworth would understand that we're a media outfit that's on our own, and if we make a mess, all of us have to kind of clean it up because we're all we got.
He doesn't work for us. He just decided, he saw us cleaning up his set. He said, you know what? I'm going to help with this.
Look at him knowing how to coil.
Oh, he was so good at coiling those cables. I'm not gonna name names, but I had some people here that very dismissively were condescending the way I was trying to help wrap up cables, and they're like, "You're breaking the cables."
I always thought you
guys break things all the time.
I thought you get the elbow involved when you're doing
No.
that. He's doing it without the elbow.
That breaks
I always
the
go
cable.
elbow. You go with the thumb.
I always involve the elbow.
No elbow
What
in
do
these.
you mean? You got to involve
Different cables. No, that's what they told me. I thought elbow too. They
No,
said
that's for like
elbow.
extension cables.
Yeah,
like an extension cord in your house.
Yeah.
Different cables. Who knew?
I'm not even sure how you would do that
Without
very
the
well
elbow.
without the
Thank
elbow.
you.
How do
You
you
don't need an elbow.
You
No,
got an elbow.
You have to twist your wrist and
That's how you keep it tight.
You follow the bend of the
Yeah,
coil, and
yeah.
then it
Because
twists itself.
I've never done it with anything other than my elbow, I can't imagine any other way
Same.
to do it than with the elbow.
Same.
If I'm wrapping a garden hose or a coil, if
Yep.
that's the way I'm doing it, the most efficient is that not the most efficient way to do it? There might be the other way might be a way. I'm
That's
considering
not how
this
I
for the
learned
first
it.
time.
And now Lewis is telling me in my ear that no elbow.
No elbow.
No elbow. That's
Absolutely
what everybody
no.
said. Yeah.
Okay,
I
don't
tried
need to
elbow. I got
don't need to
judged.
hear from Lewis. Got enough voices around here. Did not-
Sorry, but we had a very good mystery crate last week that Lewis was a part of, which everyone should listen to. It was a lot of fun. We talked about all the characters in McDonald Land.
Right.
That's fine. Didn't need to
Uncle
hear from him
O'Grimacy.
there.
This is why I left, by the way. I mean, just everyone debating elbow, no elbow. I was trying to help. No one would give me an answer, and so I left.
You were not trying to help.
I did my job.
You
I
did
mean,
parts of your job.
I did all of my job,
Well, I mean,
except the last 4.
that's you're just sitting here.
It was Emmett Smith. I mean, mean,
I'm taking Billy's word, getting deep into the weeds on. It sounds like you got very close to the finish line of correctly doing your job with maximum efficiency, and then the car broke down at the end for a number of understandable reasons, because the last 4 days had been crazy and Billy ill. It felt like you sideswiped him a little bit.
That's not what I was doing. In fact, I told Billy if he doesn't feel good enough, he doesn't have to come. We'll be fine. Like, I felt bad for Billy that he had to come. I did. I actually did. But, Dan, let's be honest. Who wants to hear from Donovan McNabb Super Bowl week?
That's the thing. Like, on a Tuesday, you're thrilled for that guest. But on a Friday, you're like,
no, I'm getting out of town.
I mean, Eagles quarterback. If you want to hear from him on Radio Row, this was the year.
On a Wednesday.
I mean, to hear from Donovan McNabb. I see your guest list. You want to hear from people. You had Ross Chastain on your guest list at one point.
No, I don't think that one happened.
That was canceled.
Yeah.
The Watermelon Man was canceled. I had nothing to do with it. I would have stayed. I would have stayed because Mike was so excited for that guest. I would have stayed, but he was canceled.
I have a question for Billy.
Chicken thigh.
I didn't cancel it, Dan. I did not cancel
it.
Chickens defend me.
I will not. Watermelon Man.
Giving him $5,000 cash.
That's a lie. Hero.
Billy, what do you tell the bookers when you're canceling these guests? Like, what is the level of shame and sadness that you feel?
This year, Stugotz until Friday was very well behaved, and I don't think we canceled any until Friday. He tried like hell to cancel Funny Marco on Tuesday. Everything.
I love
You
Funny
had
Marco.
Debo Samuel on Friday.
Yeah, well, we had
Yep,
scheduled.
That's a
and that
Tuesday,
didn't.
Wednesday guest.
Where would you normally tier Donovan McNabb and Funny Marco?
Listen, before the week, I would put, if I had to, Donovan McNabb would be like a top 10 guy I wanted. Funny Marco would not even be in the top 100. But now that I'm armed
you guys
with
had a
hindsight,
nice conversation.
Oh, no, Funny Marco is a top 5 guest of all time for me.
There it is.
I never want to talk to Donovan McNabb again.
Well, I don't know what you're doing there. It's very strange.
Funny
okay?
Marco.
But it's Stugotz. Look,
That cleared up?
He's funny.
I don't know, Stugotz, if you're aware
Of?
Well, because I could have stopped there.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware. But the curmudgeon in you that rises up when you no longer have time for a conversation with Donovan McNabb seems to run against what I thought Radio Row was for you, which is every Donovan McNabb who's available you want to talk to right up until you get tired of it because you want to get on your flight on Friday.
I had plenty of time for Donovan on Tuesday, plenty of time on Wednesday, had some time on Thursday. Friday is getaway day, Dana.
This is why I'm telling you that's a stamina issue. This is why I'm asking you, Billy. What?
I mean, we did a great hour, I thought, with me, Billy, Bomani, Diana Rossini jumped on, Sarah Spain towards the end. I enjoyed that hour very, very much. I mean,
it was the only thing we didn't have scheduled on Friday, but we did that. But that's also Baselli's fault, Dan. We were going to get the Baselli hit.
Baselli's
This
fault.
is no
Thank
Super
you.
Bowl without Tony Baselli zooming in.
Right.
Billy, finally, what were as we put punctuation on this, how do you feel about the entire experience? You guys would not bite at all on me saying New Orleans is a top 5 great American city. I don't know
great.
how many you guys would name as great American city. Like, I'm not just talking about big cities. I'm talking about a place with character and history that you feel it when you're there. It feels a little bit different energetically than all the other cities because you know of the history that's there and you can see it in the bones and the structures of the things you're walking around. Like, I don't know how many cities you put in the top 5, but this one has to be in the top 5. I obligate you.
Well, there'd
to
have to
put
be
it,
5.
Wow,
to
top
put it
5
in your
cities,
top 5.
huh?
Great American cities.
It's
not
got
just
good vibes. No, you're right, Dan.
Great
But I feel
American.
like the
You're
last
right.
5 cities you've been to, you would put on that list. Because when you get back from New Orleans, you're always like, wow, that was great. I had a great time. Except for if you're me after the Sugar Bowl.
Is Las Vegas a great American
That's
city?
a good question because I was just thinking about that because its history has some of the same things, but it's more antiseptic. It's more like in terms of representing its surrounding region.
I think Austin would be there for me.
No, not for me. No,
Really?
especially not only would it not be what
Pompano?
it used to be.
Bingo.
It used to be. Austin used to be 25 years ago, and now it's popular. That's not the same thing.
Right.
That is not what I'm talking about. Something that you're driving down a highway, or you can see something that's lived there for 150 years. It wasn't put there recently. Anyway,
Great American city.
you guys didn't want to do
Pompano.
that with me. There aren't many. San Francisco used to be one of them.
It's no longer?
No,
I lied.
Oh, no.
No.
What happened?
You tell me.
I've never been.
You tell
What
me
happened
what
to San
happened.
Maybe
to
next
San
year.
Well,
much
the
time-
Super Bowl's
How much
there
time do you
next
have?
You tell me what
Got a
happened.
couple theories.
Look, you've got. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Charles Barkley is saying don't go to San Francisco for the NBA All-Star game. It's
very much an ally.
It's rat infested, is what
I
Charles
was there
Barkley
like
is
5
saying.
years ago. I had a pretty good time.
It depends on where you are, and some things have changed in the last 5 years.
So when you say great American cities, are you talking about like Savannah? Like what are we talking about?
Yeah,
here?
Charleston.
Right,
I
They
love
have the
Charleston.
bench
Savannah.
that Forrest
Right.
Gump sat on.
Jacksonville.
Great American cities, huh?
Chicago, like, does that count?
Yes,
I feel like
Chicago
Chicago's a
does.
great
I
city.
Well, it
do
sounds like we're
think
just naming New
Chicago-
York,
no.
Chicago, New Orleans,
about
and
Detroit?
like
You
LA
feel it
and a
when you're
couple
there.
others.
I wouldn't put Key West in there as a cheap imitation of New Orleans, for
Wow.
example.
Wow.
Cheap
Cheap
imitation.
imitation.
His list, guys.
Oh boy. Huh.
And I love Key West.
Doesn't sound like
Yeah,
it.
that was the
Yeah,
opposite.
that's the
What that
opposite of
sounded
To
like.
pale
think
to
so.
New Orleans as a great American city is not an insult to another American city.
Called it a
It's not.
cheap imitation.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a cheap imitation.
Huh.
How about Nashville? Is that a great American city?
That's close.
I feel like
Wow.
your criteria is just you like places that are really haunted.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's partially that, but it's not just haunted. It's when it is that you can read about the local history of a region and you can watch through aging what happens to it through Katrina as it represents something above sea level that has lived and breathed and overcome any number of things to still stand and be the best city that hosts Super Bowls, the best city to host Super Bowls. And I say that coming from Miami, which I also think is a great American city, or used to be.
Above sea level.
For now.
Writers are strange sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
This represents something above sea level.
It's just a city, man.
Well, oh, is it? Okay.
No, it's a great. It's
No,
a
it's
great
a great American
right.
city.
Well,
You're
well,
right.
well,
Yes.
Stugotz,
Keep saving a butte.
I like what Roy said.
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are the great American cities, Stugotz? What are they?
I think Cincinnati is certainly one of the great American cities. Yeah, I think
Cincinnati.
They have a great
No.
ballpark.
No,
they
it is
do.
not.
Great American
No.
ballpark. I mean, that's why it's there. I mean,
No, Cincinnati is not.
Have you ever been?
But
Skyline.
yes, and
Huh.
it made me sad. Put it on the
Really?
poll at
like
LeBatard Show.
Cincy.
Yes, Cincinnati
What
makes
about
me
Pittsburgh?
sad.
What's their
Dan?
altitude?
Pittsburgh's a
No, I
great
like
American
Pittsburgh.
city.
I like
I like
Pittsburgh.
those yellow bridges.
Hosting
Yeah.
the draft next year. I can't wait.
Is put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Is Cincinnati a great American city? It is not.
Cincinnati's elevation is 742 feet. New Orleans is 6.5.
wow.
Both above sea level, though.
We haven't really mentioned this yet. Miami?
I did mention it.
Oh, you did?
Steve
Okay.
Martin.
Is
As
Pittsburgh?
yes or no?
And that's a
Lauderdale.
fine, isn't it?
What are we a cheap imitation of?
Put it
Yeah.
on. What are we? A cheap
New York City currently.
Yeah, New York, Vegas.
There's like 7
Well-
Carbones here now.
Well, that's the New Yorkers' fault.
That's been.
coming down
It's
here.
not now. That's been for a long time. A lot of New York ends up. We are. Yes, we are a cheap imitation of New York. Yes, that is correct. in
Wow,
terms of-
man.
Clip that.
Best I,
Jeez,
I
Louise.
don't speak.
why is that?
We are not a cheap imitation of New York. Miami and New York kind of have this thing.
Right.
Everyone that comes in here tries to tell us how much better the place that they actively left is. I don't like it.
No. I'm just
No,
talking.
he's right.
I,
So great.
no,
Get
no, no,
your ass
no.
back up there.
No,
Uh-oh.
I am
Careful.
talking about the restaurants that come down here. I'm talking about Just Cuisine, where it is that she's
There's a
talking about.
Joe's Pizza in Wynwood.
There have been like what has for 30 years. What has happened down here is that something opens in New York for food and then comes down here. Like that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the overalls of the city, but flavor is part of what it is that a city is. And New Orleans is a great food city. It's anyway. You guys that don't evidently want
No.
to.
No
it
one
would
wants
be-
to come out with an anti-New Orleans take.
Right.
Just want to be clear. This is not the time for it.
It's hard to rank only 5, Dan. There's so many great American cities.
Well, it's just also if
What's
I
your
name something
criteria?
else, you'll be like, that's not a great American city when they have a great American ballpark. Some people, these are all subjective. I happen to really like Cincinnati.
I supported your list, and then I come out with Cincinnati. You don't support me.
Yeah.
I mean,
This land is your land, but it's also mine.
California.
You didn't support my list.
did.
You pretended to support my list, and then you said it's just a city of New Orleans. and
Wamego,
you
Kansas.
don't remember any of the things that you said because you just got back from Radio Row. And you're just
Super Bowl Monday,
You're just
Dano.
getting badgered.
Memphis.
Yes.
Ah, Memphis.
Memphis is a top 5 American city. Dan, come on.
Yes.
I think the list is expanding beyond
It's
5.
more than 5 already.
Not even Jimmy Butler wanted to go to Memphis.
Right.
Play a little music there, and Dan's in.
He literally said everywhere but Memphis.
They have a Pyramid Bass Pro Shops.
Yeah, that's not great.
Oh no,
It
that
is
was
the
in the
music.
pro column.
It's a music thing. Chris sees on it.
no,
if
it's-
they have like a sound,
Well, that's good too, but it's not just a sound; it's also a taste.
It's ghosts. He likes ghosts.
and that,
guys.
and when I say above sea level, yeah, the cemetery's above ground.
Detroit has a sound, and it had RoboCop,
Yeah, Dan, Detroit,
and its own type of pizza.
Detroit.
And Tim Robinson.
Detroit is not.
When's the last time
for
you've been
me.
to Detroit?
Not that long ago.
It's
And
great.
What?
it's
They've
gotten
really
better.
done a lot with
Yes,
doing hanging out in
downtown-
Detroit.
Downtown, you laugh, Billy.
There was a time where you said I couldn't pay you $1 billion to live in Detroit.
Billy-
Downtown's nice now.
But yes, they've changed. They actually changed the economy around a ballpark. They actually are one of the cities that did that correctly.
By gentrifying.
You and Eugene Levy can go to all the Little Caesars in the world. Their world headquarters is there.
Does having a good ballpark or like a good sports venue have to be a criteria? Because I don't know if Miami's a great American city. Although I do wish Miami would try to copy New York's public transportation system.
too.
That would be a better thing than
Definitely.
putting a fourth Lucali
Right.
somewhere in Sunset Harbor.
So I have New Orleans, Nashville, Memphis, Savannah, and Cincinnati.
Savannah and Cincinnati. When was the last time that you were
Pompano.
in Savannah? Give me all the history of Savannah that you know. Tell me one thing,
Savannah's a good
anything
city.
architecturally. No, I'm just saying.
can't.
I'm not denying that Savannah is a good city. I'm wondering why it's on his list.
He's a big fan of the John Berendet, the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil book, right, Stugotz?
Yeah.
Or just
Savannah's got good bones, Dan. I mean,
New
not
Orleans.
wrong.
Not,
Well,
not better than New Orleans.
Those bones.
The bone off.
Those, you know where those bones belong to?
I'm not nailing it.
How about Chicago? Is that on America's Great Cities?
We already
Steve
said
Martin
this.
also.
We already did.
Well, it wasn't on the
Chicago
list
for
of the
third
five we just
time.
right,
did.
none of the
There's a
five,
lot of
though.
fines,
not on the
man.
Come
five.
on, man.
They had a
Montreal?
great, they had a great fire, Billy, so they have a lot of ghosts.
Chicago has to be on there, though, right?
Perhaps
Wrigley?
Toronto.
I mean,
Vancouver. People say that would be a great American city.
I was on the plane up
Sioux Falls.
to into New Orleans on the plane. They said they were welcoming. They were talking about the Gulf of America, and I couldn't help myself. I shouted, "That's not a thing!"
What about Nuke, Greenland?
I'm a fan of using nukes if I must.
It might be pronounced Nuck, but not anymore.
Now, does it have to be part of like the continental U.S. or is like Honolulu on your list?
Oh, wow.
Or Juneau?
Stugotz's long-awaited 3 years in the making. Weekend observations are here. Stugotz is claiming that he now gets to be right after some of the most historically bad takes in the history, pre-merger, post-merger of America's most popular sport. Stugotz is now claiming he gets to be right because the Chiefs lost, and we will get to his weekend observations in a second. But please do not let me get out of here today without telling the story, embarrassing to me, very embarrassing to me, of me being racist in New Orleans. Do not let me get out of here today.
Oh, I won't.
I think we might.
No.
Yep.
Before telling the
Bad
story.
for business, I would say.
That's a tease.
Yes.
It's a great tease.
Thank you.
Yes.
Still doing it after 20 years in the business. Thank you. If we did it the old-fashioned way, radio, people would stay around and I could tease it all week.
Oh, man.
And I may, because it's a good story, and I'm going to have corroborators and witnesses, and you guys, I think, are going to just laugh at me in a way that's pretty good. But let's get to Stugotz's weekend observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Dan, he had the worst 2-year stretch of his career. He lost his wife, who went on to have a kid with somebody else. Then there were questions about his broadcasting skills and whether or not he was the greatest of all time. But last night, Dan, everything changed.
Really?
Because that debate was put to bed.
Jessica, you can't believe this. He's going to say it.
Don't say it.
I'm going to say it.
He's going to say it.
I'm going to say it. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, Tom Brady is back.
Goat.
He said it.
He's back.
Mahomes is still on track.
For what?
7 rings.
Go.
He's not.
Brady's record in these Super Bowls in terms of stats a lot better too.
I mean, Mahomes is 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in the Super Bowl. Mahomes is lost by 40 points the 2 games.
That a boy.
It's presently clearer that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time in his sport than it is even Michael Jordan.
Well,
And that comes down to rings as well.
you're taking it a little too far. But, I mean, it's Michael Jordan.
The gulf between
The answer
Brady,
is always Michael Jordan.
the gulf between Brady and second best is larger than it is in the NBA.
Huh.
LeBron is both the youngest player to score 40-plus in a game and the oldest player to ever score 40-plus in an NBA game.
And
I'm just saying, I'm to his point, whatever you think the difference is, it's not the difference between he played in 10 Super Bowls. It's nuts.
And pro Jordan fans will always go on the argument of rings because they do that so often with LeBron. You can't do that against Tom Brady.
no,
So Brady, Jordan, Mahomes, LeBron.
Jordan Brady.
Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Brady has more rings than Jordan.
Doesn't matter.
Put his rings in a box.
Well, in my personal record book, Jordan has 8 rings, of course, StugottzBook.com, because he took the 2 years off. Elijah won 2 that he never would have won. Elijah doesn't have any. Kenny Smith never makes it to TNT. I mean, how about that?
No Tiger.
I think if you went golf, you would go with Jack, right?
Well,
Golf. The golf in golf is also smaller than it is in the NFL.
Gulf of America. I shouted through the plane. That's not a thing.
You should have called it the Gulf of America, too, while he was at it. It would have been more on brand.
Again, coming up soon, Dan's racism. Andy Reid, do it with Jalen Hurts. How's that blockbuster Anthony Davis-Luka Doncic trade going? The big nothing trade. Seriously, you guys made the biggest deal out of this trade, nothing burger. And just like that, Dan, Nick Sirianni is a leader of men.
Chris, can you find for me the original press conference that we all made fun of Sirianni? I just want to play that back. His original introductory press conference, please.
I tried to tell everybody something was just a little bit off in Kansas City. I wasn't wrong, just early. Unfortunately for all of us, Nick Sirianni undressed Andy Reid. You know what Kansas City was doing all season, Dan?
I don't, but he didn't.
They were playing with fire.
He didn't undress Andy Reid.
I mean, he did.
You thought that was an out-coaching situation?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Are you kidding me? They built that team to beat Kansas City, and they beat Kansas City.
You think Sirianni is the reason that they did that? You think something that Fangio did yesterday was why they did that?
I mean, Sirianni gets the credit, does he not? He's a leader of men now.
I mean,
I can't think of a single coaching decision he made in that game.
Fangio didn't do a good job yesterday.
no, he did a great job. But if four
They
guys
didn't blitz once.
he didn't have to blitz because the defensive line did a great job for Fangio, and their DBs are great, and Kansas City's receivers aren't any good.
Play how you practice, Dan.
Yep. Dan, you know what happens when you are constantly playing with fire?
You get burnt.
Eventually, you do. Yeah.
We got to make T-shirts. I wasn't wrong. I was early. That is so good. Like we have to make Chiefs T-shirts with Stugotz's face on them because now being against the Kansas City Chiefs is a thing. Stugotz, you could become the hood ornament on that. I'd love to see it as someone who advocated for Alex Smith over Patrick Mahomes.
Alex Smith wins that game.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Does Alex Smith win that game?
For anyone who compared Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady before yesterday, you have until the close of business today, which for me is 1 p.m. Eastern, to take it back. C.O.B.
Tyreek Hill took it back. You don't see a lot of that.
Really?
Tyreek Hill just took it back. He says,
Before
I take
the
it back.
deadline.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill says, everything I said after the season emotionally, I just take it back. I'm sorry.
Jason Sehorn walked so Cooper DeJean could run. Cooper DeJean, sneaky athletic.
Sneaky. I mean,
Sneaky. He's sneaky.
He's a white corner. What do you mean it's
Sneaky athletic.
It's not,
Yeah.
he's enormously athletic.
Jalen Hurts, welcome to Tier 1.
No.
Oh, yeah. He's there.
No.
No, he's there. He's Tier 1. I mean, for now.
Come on.
How can you say he's not a Tier 1 quarterback? He's been to
Well,
2
how-
Super
how
Bowls
many-
in 3 years,
how
and he
many-
won one.
How many are in the tier? Because Stugotz, you only do this as did he win games when it's not a quarterback stat.
Yeah.
That game was not. You think Jalen Hurts was he was playing a different sport than Patrick Mahomes was playing the entire day.
My tiers.
He also played really well in the first Super Bowl that they lost. People
Outplayed him.
forget.
Yeah. Tier 1. In honor of the Super Bowl in New Orleans, top 5 famous people, if they were born after something that New Orleans is known for. OLI, Edgar Allan Poe Boy.
I don't understand this list. Is it just going to be New Orleans things?
Yeah.
Okay. OLI.
Billie Jean King Cake.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Number 5, Jambalaya Elliott. Number 4, Cajun Langdon. Number 3, what's wrong with that?
It's Trajan. It's not
Cajun Langdon.
It's not.
It rhymes.
It's my list.
Okay.
Number 3, Apollo Creole.
All right, no.
Number 2, Dan Marty Graziano. And number 1, Binyeye Hilario. Come on.
Graziano.
Here come the Canucks.
Canucks.
Tomato.
He's been doing this for years.
Tomato, potato.
He doesn't know how to do it.
Quinn Hughes now out for the Four Nations.
Amen. Amen.
The Empire State Building should be embarrassed for putting green Eagles colors on its building. That building has no spine.
Sell out.
You can't do that, Dan. It's the one color you cannot throw on the Empire State Building. You can't do it. There's actually 2 colors. There's Boston green, and then there's Philadelphia green, and I imagine Boston blue, red, whatever the Red Sox are. You just can't. You don't celebrate certain teams in New York. Philadelphia is one of them.
Is it 2, 3? How many colors are you putting that you can't put on? What is the ruling you're making here?
Philadelphia, Boston, you can never put their colors on the Empire State Building. Can't do, unless something tragic happens. That's it. But not in celebration. Boston Marathon, I understood, you know?
Okay, a one-time exception you're allowing.
Of course.
I have marveled at Jessica shoveling. Is that granola? Like that has
Yeah.
been
It's really good.
the entire.
You've noticed that too, right?
Well, but
Baked it yesterday.
but it's been for like 7 straight minutes. It's been genuinely impressive to watch. She is just eating granola with her hands, and it's
Conveyor belt of
It's
granola.
a lot. It's not a little bit of
I've
granola.
dropped so many of it on Sasha's head.
There is so much granola all over
look,
Wisconsin.
I assumed that a dog that was not the previous dog, Willow, that was in here, was covered in crumbs, and I assumed that she would also have it on her shirt because she was clearly not eating with any utensils.
Everywhere.
I mean, but if Willow was there, it would get eaten, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
She's just grazing the entire
No,
time.
she has been
Grazing is polite.
She has been putting
It's like a shovel, a hand shovel.
3 finger. Yeah, it's been a little. What is that? What is a little?
A backhoe.
A trowel?
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, she said it correctly.
All it took for Mekhi Becton to reach his potential was getting as far away from the Jets organization as possible. I hate them. To whoever decided to change the Fox score bug, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Oh, you don't like it. You like Brady, but not that.
If it
huh?
ain't broke, don't fix it. That's all I'm saying. Brady was great. He was good. No.
No.
You didn't think he was good?
He was good for him. We already had this conversation.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
he was good for him, but not good for a broadcaster.
But he's back, right?
No.
Well, he is. Nobody loves helping facilitate a 3-team trade quite like the Utah Jazz. They're always in there. The 3rd team.
Danny Ainge really, he is the hero for the modern age on people who just really love to think that their picks would all be better than Anthony Davis. Danny Ainge and the collection of picks that is the plague upon sports right now, where every person listening to this only thinks of him as a pick collector.
Jimmy Butler, instant dividends. You see that game? Wow. Down 20 to Chicago. Some say too much ego in that locker room. I say not enough.
You want more ego in the Warriors locker room?
It's working. Through one game.
Through one game, it did work. It looked good. It looked fun. Hey, that's what it looks like when Jimmy insists on getting 13 free throws.
Dan Le Batard taking Super Bowl week off so he can instead hold a self-centered sit-down with Dan Patrick. Dan, the Stugotz is strong in you. I enjoyed that. I got to be honest with you. I really did. I thought you did a great job. I thought Dan Patrick was very unfair to you afterwards. I did.
Unfair how?
I was just saying that you're probing through his life and making him talk about stuff he didn't want to talk about. What did he think you were going to do? That's what you do.
That is what I do.
You crack people open.
I was told that I did not know. I could not hear from the back of the room, but it was relayed to me that I think Dan Patrick's producers have narked on you, that you made it so loud in the back that they couldn't hear what was being said on stage.
They also made fun of us and said that we talk over you all the time.
How about if you're a self-respecting venue, you buy speakers that you can hear the show everywhere?
Whoa, I am not taking out Tipitina's.
Who cares? We're never going there again.
Well,
That's a legendary spot.
Whoa,
I mean, Dan might, though. That's a legendary spot.
We are.
They host one thing, and New Kids on the Block to a music video upstairs. Good for you. Buy some speakers.
They've hosted a number of different things. Some might say Metal Arc should be responsible for those speakers. But again, speaking in the back of the room,
DP? I mean,
was Stugotz.
Go to a stadium. You don't bring your own chairs.
But it's
I mean, DP lied about Super Bowl Saturday, so I called him. I said one word: liar.
We couldn't hear you. We couldn't hear you up front. But you would understand how it is that his producers are different than our producers.
Yeah, they're all men.
Nothing is less believable than the guy who says he isn't contagious. I might be looking at you, Billy.
Are you sick?
Starting to feel it. Sniffles, little sniffles, throat. The shovel pass isn't as cute when you were down by 34.
Such a good point. Such a good point. The forgotten play from this Super Bowl. My God, do you realize all of the people who would have been hyperventilating for months if that little flip for 6 yards to Kelsey had been a decider on third down? If it mattered at all.
Yep. The S in Super Bowl stands for Snooze Fest. The B in Super Bowl stands for Brady. Joe Shane should get a ring. Congratulations to the entire Chiefs team, because somehow Drake was still the biggest loser from the Super Bowl. You can't spell MVP without the V in Vic Fangio. Fangs. What a game by Fangs. Game of his life, huh?
You didn't have to do anything.
Well, he did a lot. He held them scoreless.
You didn't have to do anything. Just, hey, send the 4 guys up there. As fast
I know they
as
scored in the
get
second
Dan,
half.
you gotta be the only guy with this take today.
I mean, Fangs.
This is like-
No one's bashing
Shut
Fangs
down
today.
what
Right.
everybody said was the most talented quarterback ever in a Super Bowl.
No, but
Yeah.
this
What
is
are you
what.
doing?
No, but
He
this is
held them scoreless to 22
guys.
points.
Spags also.
Listen, those points don't count. Those are garbage points. They didn't count. The defense took their foot off the pedal. So
Dan,
I'm sorry.
sometimes less is more.
Yep.
And that's what.
Those points counted, Billy.
Spags
Garbage time.
did his job yesterday as well. That was won by the defensive line.
Right.
That's
Whose defensive line?
Patrick Mahomes
Whose?
has never had that game before. That
Vic
game.
Fangio's offensive line.
Right.
I just like the lane of salty Dolphins fan who's like, Fangs sucks. He's still bad.
I'm not even saying that.
I know, but you should.
He's
I'm
still
sa-
got to come down from that
That would
booth.
be a good take.
I'm simply saying to everybody that I will not look at that game and have you tell me that Sirianni and Vic Fangio outcoached them. They could play that game 100 times. It would look that way because of the advantages they had on both lines.
You would say this, though, right? The Eagles built the perfect roster to beat that Kansas City Chiefs team, right? You would say that.
They built a pretty
so
close...
Howie Roseman gets the
they-
credit.
Coaching had nothing to do with yesterday.
I'm not saying, look, guys, you don't need to be extremes. No, Spags did an excellent job. Stop the MVP of the league. But what Philadelphia had offensively, physically, that was obvious to everyone watching is those advantages up front usually don't exist like that. Baltimore has some of them, and when you see them, they score 40 points. It was shocking to see Kansas City pushed around. Like, it's usually not that obvious. It never's that obvious. It's never that obvious where you're watching a physical game and you're like, oh, man, all of Philadelphia's guys are 360 on the offensive line. And still, Kansas City stopped that. But on defense, they couldn't do anything. Like, Mahomes is great. He didn't choke. That's not him having a bad performance. That's him having knowing football and having zero confidence that anyone is going to stop it from feeling the way it did against Tampa when all the world's pressure was on him and they couldn't block 4 defensive linemen.
I mean, it's hard to say he didn't choke last night. I mean, just because you've won doesn't mean you can't choke.
Okay, so a guy who's 16-4 in the playoffs right now choked in that one with 19 games of experience. Okay.
Aqua? Every time I see Rob Pelinka, I'm shocked it's not Rob Lowe. Still.
No, Lowe has aged better.
Than Pelinka?
Yeah, Pelinka used to
Really?
look like Lowe, and Lowe doesn't age.
Huh.
That's not. I don't even blame Pelinka on that. It's just Lowe doesn't get old. Pelinka ages like a normal human being, and Lowe is going to be a teen star for the rest of his life. It's, I mean, surely Mike will accuse Rob Lowe of something.
Why hasn't Pelinka's hair changed? What's going on there? And also, I saw a great photo of John Hamm next to Rob Lowe. No one enjoyed Bourbon Street more than John Hamm.
He went ham.
Appeared.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Did anyone enjoy Bourbon Street more than John Hamm?
To be fair to Nico Harrison, who could have possibly seen Anthony Davis getting hurt?
They tried to tell us we weren't watching the game closely enough, Stu.
Hey, Super Bowls, enough with the Roman numerals. I mean, seriously.
We did this on Mystery Crate.
Just give me a 60. I mean, 59, whatever. Enough. I'm tired of trying to figure this out.
Do you know Pablo can't count Roman numerals?
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Hey, Super Bowl, enough with the Roman numerals. Yes or no?
Thank you. DeMar Hamlin should win Comeback Player of the Year every year he plays. Joe Burrow came back from a wrist injury. DeMar Hamlin came back from death.
So you're going to just keep giving it to him? Name it after him?
Every year. Yeah. Everything else pales in comparison, does it not?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
It is not under dispute that if you die in the field and are resuscitated, that is coming back better than from a wrist injury.
The person who shushes me because they only care about the commercials. I hate you. Enough. The commercials. Hey, tip of the cap to one UB Brown. Have we tipped a cap yet? I'm going to tip a cap.
Briefly, yes. He deserves it. 91 years old.
Legend, Dan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, got to do it his way till 91. And whatever you think of other broadcasters and how they age, I don't know that I've seen one age this well into 91 because of how much he loves basketball.
Close second, me.
Broadcasting and teaching basketball, because the arguments can be made that he taught more basketball than anyone in the history of the sport.
I saw the stat on Twitter that he coached or broadcasted 80% of NBA players in history.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope it's true.
He's an archive. That would be good if it were true, yes. I, too, hope it's true. That's good vetting by you, executive producer, with journalism standards. I wonder what the difference is between our producers and Dan
Just in
Patrick's.
case.
I mean, hire one woman.
Just one. Fritzy was on my plane to Chicago. How about that? It's a lot nicer to me in person than he was on the air. I think I didn't notice, Fritzy.
Come on, man. Dan
I
Patrick
like
did
Fritzy.
a
He's a
nice
top 5
thing.
guest booker all time.
I don't want to feud with the Dan Patrick Show from any angle.
He started it. I mean, I just showed up. Supported you.
But he just showed up to support
Fritzy didn't.
us.
Yeah. I was there.
Best ability is availability, Dan.
Well, Fritzy's boycotting. Does anyone know what the boycott's about?
I have an idea.
What's the boycott? I don't want
wanna
to ask.
share it?
No, I
You
don't
know.
want to ask. I don't even want to ask.
It can be me. We could start a bidding war.
We could sit you in their studio in an actual boy cot, like sit in their studio, like here. Yeah.
You know what the Celtics did to the Knicks over the weekend? They reminded them who's who. You saw that one, right?
I did see that. Why are you laughing at that, though, when it happens to your team?
I don't know. Just everyone thinks the Celtics are like an unworthy champion. They're ridiculously good.
That they are. They were very good last year, and when they did that to Cleveland, too. Did you mention that? When they went into Cleveland 10 days ago and did it?
No, just to my Knicks. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's my Knicks. I mean,
well,
it's an odd reaction. Yeah.
It is.
I haven't watched the sport in 3 years, though, to be honest.
You and Mike Ryan as well, yeah.
Anthony Davis has been hurt the whole time.
Slowly coming back, though. He's still hurt.
So what do you guys think of death threats? Death threats.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. And don't do that. That's a bad look. Don't do that. That's a bad thing. Don't do that.
You're not a fan of death threats?
No. In fact, I'm coming out publicly against them.
Are there many fans?
He had to hire personal security at his home. Like, it's threatening enough that he feels like he's got to add an expense around his house because he's the one who traded Luka.
It's a scary time for him. No. I think that's legitimate. I mean, there's vile stuff being sent to him. I understand it's an emotional time. You can tell yourself that they should have not have traded Luka. I get that, but no, there's civility and decorum.
You guys want to see my limited fake impression of Nico Harrison when he saw Anthony Davis get injured during that game?
Into his hand.
That's pretty good.
Couldn't get it seen.
All right, so let me see.
That's how you have to do it.
Let me see. Yes, but really hurting, right? Yeah. Oh, the thing just happened. Everyone thought would happen. Halftime, he's great. He's 9 for 12. Look, he's not a number 2. He's a number 1. We're going to compete.
He announces, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here. We're going to compete. One half of Anthony Davis basketball, and then you're out for a few weeks. Let me hear him again. Good work. You're not like Dan Patrick's producers at all.
You're better.
Fritzy could never.
Chris was on a roll last week while you were out.
Mm-hmm.
You missed it. It was good. Right, Chris?
Okay. Eli Manning saying he's at peace, not making it to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Liar. Eli Manning, more like Eli Manning.
No Reggie Wayne either.
Odd, right? Weird class. Really.
Well, I don't actually want to in any way disparage an amazing Sterling Sharp. But how many years has it been? Like, what changed here in the last many years that I'm not used to seeing those things? And it was a beautiful.
Yeah, I know what you're going to do. You're going to try to give his brother credit for it.
No, I'm not. Wait a minute.
That's what you're open the door.
That
for.
would be disparaging it.
They do get promotion.
No.
I mean.
I would not disparage it. I just legitimately haven't looked it up. And so, look, I know how great Sterling Sharp was. I would have thought he was already in the Hall of Fame. I'm legitimately asking this is an unusual amount of time to go, and I didn't know whether there was any backstory there that I didn't know that I needed to know.
Eric Allen also joined, probably too late.
Probably.
Great peepers. All-time peepers.
Amazing, yes.
Some of the nicest, they're
peepers.
lagoons.
Yes.
Lagoons.
Lagoons.
Yes, beautiful lagoons. Could stare into them for hours.
Eagles play the Bengals next Sunday. Who wins?
The Eagles?
I don't know.
I feel very strongly about this. I'm going Eagles.
Bad defense is going to have a hard time against the Eagles. Bad defense is going to be a problem.
Taking Burrow.
I'm pretty confident it'd be the Eagles.
You think?
But I like this college football brain take of yours. The Bengals are like a SEC team, I guess.
Yeah, Bama would have beaten the Chiefs.
Look, for the record, lest the history get lost in getting all lightheaded about like Mahomes and Brady and how they know how to win. The Eagles winning 2 championships, like in one case with their backup quarterback and then with a quarterback they're not hiding, but a quarterback that has a lot of help that would allow a lot of quarterbacks to be good because that's the kind of help that you need.
The popular take was, in terms of like effectiveness, he's the least effective of their skill guys.
The Eagles won 37-17 when they played each other earlier this year.
Listen, Mike, you say the least effective of their skill guys. No, I was trying to ask this question different ways last week and never did it really well. If I were to say, by position on the Eagles, give me guy where he ranks best in the league amongst his peers at doing that job, I don't know how low I go before I arrive at Jalen Hurts. And I mean that as no disparagement of Jalen Hurts.
Meaning
he's got about 7 or 8 guys that you can make the argument do that job. Lane Johnson does his job better than Jalen Hurts does his job.
Meaning A.J. Brown's a top 5 receiver. Devontae Smith is a top, 20 receiver. How many quarterbacks do you go before you get to Jalen Hurts?
You had Jalen Hurts as a tier 1 quarterback.
He is, yeah.
No, this by this definition, he would not be. Saquon Barkley is best in
AJ maybe
best in show. Like there was
great movie.
Those offensive line grades are very strong.
Maybe.
Nobody cares. This is the thing about football, though. I don't understand why it is that we don't talk about the part that, they're more physical up front, stronger than everybody on the offensive and defensive line.
We don't understand that part of it. We don't. Seriously, and no one cares
it's
about
the
it.
most obvious part of it, though.
Sometimes it gets mitigated.
Right.
Yeah, you say it's the most obvious part. The line was essentially, they were an underdog by a point.
Okay, I know, but when I talk about, look, I just want to ask you guys, when Chris Jones is laying down on the goal line, because it's not a stoppable play with that offensive line for 2 yards. Do you understand that this is a tank moving through a real estate acquisition game that's more physically violent than all the others?
There have been Niners defensive lines where I go into games against the Kansas City Chiefs thinking that D-line has the advantage, and it doesn't necessarily work out that way. And everybody would like to point to, the Denver Broncos, dominant line. Of course they're going to dominate Cam Newton. You don't really know until you see it. You don't really know how all the pieces, and there's an element of coaching. So shout out to Vic Fangio.
We need to speed this up because we got to get to Dan's racism.
Aaron Rodgers, the rare quarterback that you're just as excited the day you get rid of him as the day you got him. Do we really need another O.J. Simpson documentary? The Bronco, the glove, we get it. He did it. If the glove doesn't fit, you should have quit. How about we quit making the documentary? How's that sound?
You must have quit, by the way.
Basketball is better with Dickie V.
Jessica, what are you shaking your head about?
You got the line wrong. So I guess we do need another one.
It's a fine.
Did you see we're getting another Prince documentary because we're not getting the original one?
No!
The Prince's estate came out and said, essentially, you're never going to see that other one, but we've announced a new deal for one that we like.
Crushing.
Philly fans, and this is most of you, if you fired Nick Sirianni at 2-2, do me a favor, don't show up to the parade. He didn't show it, but no one enjoyed last night's game more than Tom Brady. My revised top 5 quarterbacks of all time based off of last night's results. Number 5, Troy Aikman. 3 wins without the 2 losses. Terry Bradshaw, 4 for 4. Joe Montana, 4 for 4. Number 2.
My bad.
Tom Brady before Dan declared that he was done. And number 1, Tom Brady after Dan declared that he was done.
Tom Brady's back, Stugotz says.
He is. Watch out for the Lightning. Solid team. They're always around, man. They are.
That is one of Stugotz's finest ninja moves. It never gets old. He's got perfect comedic timing on it. I don't know how it's something that doesn't expire or age. He always surprises me after all these years with watch out for.
Bill Parcells was right when he said it. He is still right today. And he'll be right as long as games are being played on a football field. Run the ball. Stop the run. The big tuna. Visionary.
I really didn't think he wasn't wrong. He's just early.
Exactly.
I just really didn't think in 2025 I'd be sitting here saying, you know how you win the game? Beat them up front in the trenches.
The game always comes back around, though, Dan.
In the
It
trenches,
does.
yes.
It always does. It's back to basics. Here's something to ponder. Did Nick Saban send the wrong quarterback to Oklahoma? What do you think?
I don't want to revise.
You don't need to discuss it now. It's something to ponder. It's
Okay, thank you.
Philly, I'm not joking. I don't want to see more than 1,000 people at that parade.
Oh, come on. What are you talking about? It's going to be a total carnival.
I know, but they shouldn't be there. They all fired their coach at 2-2.
You guys are Philadelphia is going to get more crazy for this than they would in any sport, correct?
Yes.
It'll be bigger than hockey and basketball and baseball, and those fan bases are plenty passionate. But it's not this, right?
Well, it's the Eagles, and they love the Eagles, but it's the Eagles beating the Chiefs. I
think of, what do you think of Philadelphia as? Because I think of them as football first,
Insane
even though
people.
I think baseball,
I
to be honest.
the winning hasn't. The football hasn't won the most, but I think of it as it thinks of itself as a football city. I thought.
The last time they won the Super Bowl, oof, it was scary.
If Adam Vinatieri isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, no kicker ever will be. To anybody playing pickleball, do me a favor. Grab a racket, go out on a real court, hit a real serve, and play tennis like Johnny McEnroe intended. Johnny Mac. What are we doing with pickleball? It's glorified ping pong.
It's good exercise.
I don't care what it is. Play tennis. If Jason Kelsey celebrated with his ex-teammates last night, he's a bad brother. Jason Kelsey, Kansas City Chiefs, collision course.
Put it on the poll. If Jason Kelsey celebrated with his former teammates last night, is he a bad brother?
Cooper DeJean and Saquon Barkley winning a Super Bowl on their birthday. Hell of a birthday. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
So you being racist. Let's go.
I'll get there in a second. Maybe I won't.
Need more
I'm
time.
gonna tease it all week.
Oh.
Really?
It's a good story, and we're going to get the guests involved so we can make maximum fun of it. Jessica, do you agree with Stugotz's take that, put it on the poll, Juju, that pickleball is glorified ping pong?
Yes, it is live action ping pong. I haven't played in a while. I actually want to play again. I miss it a little bit. Yeah. But I'm always scared I'm going to tear my Achilles.
Yeah. It is a problem. It is plaguing the sport.
You know how I love the game of tennis? Me and Mike, we love tennis. And what's happening is, Dan, they're taking apart tennis courts and replacing them with pickleball courts. Pickleball is killing tennis. And I'm not a fan of it. Grab a tennis racket, string it up, and go play some real tennis. I mean, how about that?
Put it on the poll. Is pickleball killing tennis? Also, play for me the sound just so you know who the champion is, because you guys are telling me that all I'm saying is that coaching doesn't matter. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if Kansas City had won, you would have told me that Spags did a great job, and he did do a great job. He stopped Saquon Barkley. That's amazing. I don't know how the hell he did that. They were able to do it all game somehow, and it didn't matter, because the game is made a lot easier for Jalen Hurts when you've got all of these guys, and Philadelphia knows, oh, you're trying to stop Saquon. I'll just throw it 45 yards down the field because McDuffie can't cover everybody. I got too many for you here. How many is McDuffie? He's going to try A.J. Brown? Okay, good luck with that. Because the game is like, you do understand what we were watching yesterday is Jalen Hurts afforded the opportunity to play a totally different sport than the one that Patrick Mahomes was playing.
Of course, yes.
Okay, and so when I'm not saying coaching doesn't matter. I'm saying this is your champion today. Introductory press conference.
Next thing that's very important to me is that we build a smart football team, that we have a smart football team here. And I know we have the people in place to do that. The first part of being smart is knowing what to do. We're gonna have systems in place that are easier to learn. All right, complicated to the defense or offense that they're going against, or the special teams group they're going against, but easy for us to learn. Because when we can when we can learn our system and we can get good at our system, then our talent can take over. Less thinking equals talent take over, but we need to have systems in place, and we will have systems in place.
And here's the system. We're going to punch you in the mouth all game long, and you're going to lose. And Chris Jones is going to be in the fetal position on the goal line.
But today he sounds like a genius.
He actually did call his shot. With their first Super Bowl run, their whole advantage was decisiveness, less thinking. Jalen Hurts knows where he's going with it better than anybody, quicker than anybody else.
Because we made fun of this, so you're saying this aged well.
No, it definitely shaped my opinion. I thought this coach was incapable. I thought he picked great assistants the first go-around, and I thought the NFL would catch up to him. And for a while there, it looked like they might. They went into that bye week, totally reshaped themselves. It's a credit to him. He's certainly got a great eye for talent when it comes to coordinators.
Less thinking equals talent take over.
You two are a visionary because you told us many, many years ago the most important thing in the NFL for success is being able to get to the quarterback with 4. And that's what the Eagles do.
But beyond that, though, there is simple genius, okay? There is simple genius in we've got an offensive coordinator who's a hot shot and has ego, and what we're going to do is we're just going to run the ball. That's what we're going to do, and everything will play off that.
So no racism.
There are a lot of people in here right now who have had a lot of food. I feel like the other room smells like Super Bowl leftovers. I could not believe the amount that Jessica ate today. It felt like you were shoveling with your hand. It was alarming, but also it seems like it was invigorating. You seem like you're filled with nutrients right now.
Homemade granola, really a game changer. You melt some brown sugar with some maple syrup and like an olive oil, and then you sprinkle on the oats and some nuts and some coconuts and some dried fruit, and you warm it up in the oven. Oh, delicious.
Surprising thing to see you eat so vigorously with your hands the whole time. I would have thought you would have grabbed a utensil at some point.
No, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Okay. Juju, thank you for being on with us here. Can I get some more information on the dog in the back, please? Because it's been here with us today. It is not Willow, and it's got a lot less personality than Willow. It seems... Well, I mean,
it's a compliment to your dog.
She's sedentary. This one. She doesn't move around a whole lot. Is she old?
She's so cute. She's baby.
Okay.
She's like 9-ish. She's a rescue. Wow. We have matching hair.
Okay. So why is she here today? What is the backstory?
Why not?
Okay. Juju, thank you. The best shows always have a lot of good polls in them. I hope that you have some good polls for us today. But what kind of criticism? How do you feel in general today? You followed the season very closely. You're a Bills fan. You saw that the Bills barely couldn't win against the Chiefs, and then Chiefs get dragged. Do you think it would have been any different if Buffalo had been in that game?
Not at all. Buffalo lost. You feel me? And I don't have to keep reminding you, Darius Slay is my third cousin, so I'm naturally a Eagles fan as well. As well as Leotis McKelvin, the only guy to ever make it from my city was an Eagle and a Bill. That's how I became Bills and Eagles fan. You dig me? So it's pretty awesome. The Bills got to do their work. You know what I mean? There's no excuses for them. They got to get the job done, and they did not.
All right, so hold on a second, though. Billy, are you allowing this equal fandom of both fan bases, or does Juju have to cheer in a way that's different than the way that he's cheering? I've always thought that Juju liked Buffalo more than Philadelphia.
Same, yes.
Even with the family allegiances. Do I have this wrong?
No, I mean, I knew that he was an Eagles fan too, because there's been times they've played against each other. He hasn't wanted to pick either team. I'm not the commissioner.
So it's totally
of fandom.
No, but it's totally equal.
Whatever makes Juju happy.
Yes, of course. But you're not the commissioner of fandom. But Juju, you would allege that your allegiance to both of these teams is 100% equal?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I have a half and half jersey like Dana Jacobson that she got criticized for. And every time I wear that jersey, I get chastised from Bills fans and Eagles fans. So it's not fun, but hey, here we are.
Like Donna Kelsey. I mean. Juju, what cousin? Like, he's your first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, Darius Slay?
Darius Slay, my third cousin.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, Juju. I got to be honest with you. He's a third cousin. He's not a first cousin. I mean, you should root for the Bills.
What?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They're your cousins, though.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean, yes, sir, Juju?
All I said was that's ridiculous.
No, third cousin. What is the difference here? What are you doing in the rankings of cousins where are you putting this line? A first cousin, yes, but in your personal record book.
So I'm saying, like, third cousin, he should probably go with the team that he's been rooting for his entire life, but it is big play Slay, and so maybe
that's
it
right.
takes a third cousin down to a second cousin. Right?
You see, this is part of the problem. And then if it's Jalen Hurts, then it makes it a first cousin, correct?
Yes,
if it's Saquon Barkley, then he's your brother.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't root for the Bills my entire life, only when Leotis McKelvin was drafted.
That's
and
right.
then Leotis McKelvin got his house TP'd, and he had a bad game one day, and Buffalo fans tore up his house, so they traded him to Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm like, yeah, they riding with my dog. You feel me? And then my cousin go, neither here nor there. I can be a fan of whoever y'all want me to be.
Right.
No, that's not correct.
Who should Juju cheer for?
No.
No.
That is not correct, Juju. That is not. No, it is not. Juju, go ahead and update some of the polls for us. What were the good ones, and what was the general criticisms of what we were doing today? Too much Super Bowl?
No, sir. I have no criticisms at all. I'm all peace and love. Did you find it weird when the referee said, "Hi, I'm Ryan Torbert"? 82% of the audience says yes. Very weird.
It was strange. He introduced himself. He was polite.
I like it.
Got no time for that. Master of ceremonies, just wear your stripes, call the game, don't need to know your name. Be faceless until I yell at you all week afterward because the call blew the game.
Is Harry Connick Jr. a legend? Tight one. 54% of the audience says no, he is not.
Good.
Look at Chris Cody, a big
not a legend.
good says God says good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job
Warren
on the audience.
Corpus.
Okay.
Yeah, Warren Corpus from Twitter says Harry Connick Jr. is to New Orleans as Billy Gill is to Cartersville, Georgia. So yeah, I don't know.
Whoa,
Not
a
to
fraud
insult
New
my
Orleans
second
person?
city, yeah,
Like, what does that mean?
No, I think they're saying he's a big deal.
I actually agree with that. If the Super Bowl is in Atlanta, Billy goes as Cartersville Day Billy Gill, but he's not singing the opening song. That's all I said.
I would if they asked me to. Yeah, if it was Cartersville, I would. But who's going to
Also,
do it?
congratulations, Billy. Like they took shots at you last week when you was at Super
Not
Bowl Road.
surprising,
I
yeah.
think it was very fantastic for you to have a day and people come up and show out like for you, bro. Salute, hats off.
Who
man.
took
Thank
shots
you,
at him?
Juju.
Who took shots at him?
The shots were
I'm not a
just
snitch.
the shots. I think were us just saying if it's not covered, like
No, it was Fritzy. Fritzy threw.
It's always Fritz.
Great
It's
explanation.
always
Great
Fritz.
explanation.
Jeez,
I,
that guy.
I thought the framing on everything Cartersville was that Billy, because he's purposely funny, would have liked it to be in a banquet hall with even fewer people in it. That he was going for maximum awkward there.
I didn't want to tell people about it.
Right.
And they're like, "You gonna tell anyone?" And I was like, "If I must."
that's the
guess.
part we said was funny. That like you hiding it.
Yeah, but I recall Dan saying it as a compliment because who does that under the radar like that? Billy does, you know?
Yeah.
it-
and it was raining a lot. Like here in Atlanta and Cartersville that day, it was raining cats and dogs. So the fact that anyone showed up is a big salute. You did?
Idea about naming a day after somebody who was associated with one of the, or really the favorite podcast, and it's become an unhealthy obsession over.
He can't still
the
be
last 10
talking.
plus
It's
years.
not possible that this person is still doing this presentation after all of this time from last week. Juju, what else do you have?
Would you ever eat a chicken wing right after eating ice cream?
This is a big one for me. If I hit this one, I'm 3 for 3.
Stugotz, we were missing your expertise earlier because
done it.
they were looking for your munchies. They were looking for the munchies. That's the only time that you do that, right? It's a bad choice.
Yes.
51% of the audience says, yes, you can.
What a day! What a day for me. 3 for 3. Those
Big
polls.
winner.
Chris Cody having a big victory day. You too can be as disgusting as Chris Cody having chicken wings immediately after ice cream and just taking the consequences of whatever lactose mix that produces later.
Are you doing it all wrong if you're having ice cream in the second quarter? 51% of the audience says, no, you are not.
Holy
What a day.
shit. Chris Cody's winning every poll.
Especially not last night because that game was over.
That's why
right?
I did it.
Yes,
I was
right.
sad.
Yep.
At Tony Tenderoni from Twitter says, this is America, Jack. So I guess he voted no.
You've got a right to. What does that mean? No, this is
that
America,
pro or
Jack. You
anti-meme?
have a right to be disgusting and eat ice cream in the second quarter gluttonously to eat your feelings of sadness because the Super Bowl is bad. Because Patrick
sir.
Mahomes has 23 yards. Eat your feelings.
Does Alex Smith win that game?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
55% of the audience says no, he does not.
Ah!
Close, though, Stugotz. Close.
I know. Like if we asked last week, would Alex Smith win the Super Bowl with the Chiefs? It would be like 2%, right?
Stugotz is not wrong. He's just early.
Yes.
Next year, we'll be saying if they had Alex Smith, it would be a 4-peat.
Did Jimmy Johnson retire yesterday?
Can we find out, please?
76% of the audience says yes, he did.
Wow.
Call Jay Glazer. Just call. I'm going to text Jay Glazer, see if we can find it.
You get an answer for us before the end of the
I
segment
mean,
here?
did he retire or not? It seems like it'd be big news. Like
I'll ask Jay Glazer. You ask about the Malort forts. That's a big one.
Yep.
I don't know where my phone is.
And the racism. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. I'll bring up that story tomorrow.
Happy Black History Month. Is Cincinnati a great American city? 69% of the audience says no, it is not.
Wow.
Nice.
Amazing.
I'm sorry, Stugotz.
Oh, that's a big loss for me. Great American ballpark.
And they said so. It's in the heart of the city, and they said it's a great American ballpark. How can there be a great American ballpark in something that's not a great American city?
Did anyone enjoy Bourbon Street more than John Hamm? 84% of the audience says no. No one didn't.
In the last 48 hours?
God bless football.
God bless football. In addition to
Unfair angle. Unfair.
Yeah.
Hey, Super Bowl, enough with the Roman numerals. 70% of the audience says yes, enough is enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, Stugotz a big winner today. You guys spoke for America today. Gassy and bloated as you were, shoveling granola into your face.
Lord.
Wings after ice cream. I mean,
Enough with Malort farts, Mike. He's just been saying it nonstop for like 3 hours.
How many Malort farts were on your flight back from Chicago?
How bad did the flight smell that was alleged
it's a 5 a.m. flight, and I smell. This is the worst I've ever smelled personally. I can tell you, I buried a good 5 or 6 right into a cushion.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Look, you guys,
Oh yeah.
listen to me. Stugotz propelled that jet across the country with the fumes of whatever it is that he had in his belly from the last week of intoxication, invigoration, ego soaking, and just terrible food. Mufaladas. Just every night.
My watch is very expensive.
Yes, Mike does have a good watch. I've seen that watch in person before. He has a couple good watches. So salute to Mike's wristwear. You dig it. If Jason Kelsey celebrated with his ex-teammates last night, is he a bad brother?
It's a good question. It's a good question. It's a great sports radio question. It's just you should be proud of it. Stugotz, when he wasn't farting into a cushion on a flight from Chicago, it's like, I got one here. I'm going to question the real brotherhood of Jason Kelsey by seeing if, as a human being, he just went and hung out with his friends for a couple of hours.
83% of the audience says no, he is not a bad brother.
Oh wow.
That's too bad. Did people turn on the Kelseys last night? It seemed like they enjoyed the way he looked, enjoyed making fun of Taylor Swift. You don't get to win all the time. Ha ha, America's sweetheart, boyfriend and girlfriend, the American dream, you two. You lose. Ha ha.
Ha ha as well.
Mufaletta.
Is pickup.
Did I pronounce it wrong? Do I owe another fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of fines, the Joker of the Week, a quick Joker of the Week, the Dan Patrick Showcast. Y'all can't do that after Dan is gone.
That's
right. Y'all talking behind folks' back.
Say it
like
to his
that.
face.
That was,
I mean, jeez.
right, and they posted that clip. Why post that clip at all? It seemed a bit in poor taste, but salute to the Dan Patrick Show.
Wait a minute. We're going to feud with the Dan Patrick Show now?
They
That's
started.
what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Okay.
Right.
Might have called him a sexist earlier.
Oh, hey. Salute to Jessica. You feel me? You've been holding it down too. The last couple of weeks, Jessica been holding it down, dog. Y'all been at the Super Bowl. She been holding it down with castmate after castmate. So hats off to you, sis.
Hats off. Everybody's hats
pickleball
off. Let's go. Hats off. The man let's go. The man said hats off.
I'm not taking my hat off.
The
You know
man-
how this
take-
works.
they can't- Hats off. The man
Can't
said.
you do tip of the cap with just touching the tip?
You can, yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's half-hearted. That
Yeah.
ain't right. That ain't.
In more ways than one, brother.
If Stugotz is saying hats off and all she gets is 1/3 hats off, that ain't hats off.
My hat's off.
Stugotz,
My hat was off.
The rest of you, though, what?
Hats on to you, Jess.
Wait, Chris, are you trying to just guard the cul-de-sac? Is that all
right.
that's happening?
That's right, Dano.
Mike, what's your story? You don't like your hair right now?
He's got a doggy.
He's holding a dog. yeah.
Sasha's
Let's not
hats
forget
off.
the
doggy.
gelato,
Yeah.
pistachio.
Stop doing that.
Is pickleball just glorified ping pong?
Thank you.
84% of the audience says yes, it is.
Who is Gelato Man? I want to know more about this impersonation. Is Chris Cody? This is your Italian? Is that who this is? Just saying gelato over and over again. It's just not good. It's not a good. It's very limited as an impersonation.
Hat's back on?
Yeah,
or-
you should.
Thank
You should put yours back on. It's not a good look. It's what everyone's trying to avoid. Nobody wants their hat hair seen after the Super Bowl. You're all disgusting.
Congratulations to Josh Allen for winning MVP. Neither here nor there.
Snuck that in, huh? Jesus. Guy is so far away from winning a Super Bowl. I mean,
It is. I'm actually. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but I'm actually interested in the hair splitting that everyone, including Orlovsky, are doing about who should be the MVP when Lamar Jackson, all his stats are better, but he also has 9 Pro Bowlers. And Josh Allen doesn't have any. And so, between those two things, you can say, I'm tired of Lamar. I'll give it to Josh. Like, I'm actually interested in how that's happening when you're sitting here parsing splitting the silliest of hairs of who's better, and numerically, it's clearly Lamar Jackson. Like in every category except wins.
Finally, we got to the racism.
That's not the story. It's a good one. I'll bring it up tomorrow. I'm going to bring it up tomorrow. Do you have anything else, Juju, or we're done here?
No, sir, we're done here. But salute. It was great. All the coverage from Super Bowl week last week was fantastic. Oh, man. Keep doing y'all thing.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Juju.
Juju.
I will say to everyone and the group involved here, because I don't think people understand what an undertaking it is to have to take all of our suitcases and make all that stuff. God Bless Football did a lot of extraordinary things. You should check out their YouTube channel. You should support it. You should contribute to watching what it is that Stugotz and Billy made over the course of the week, because Billy Ill played hurt for you, and Stugotz almost made it to the end of the week without collapsing.